The January 20th, 2026 legislative session of the Anne Arundel County Council is called to order. Please ensure all phones and electronic devices are set to silence. Ms. Ledbetter will now lead us in the invocation and pledge.
Please pray in a manner consistent with your faith, as I pray in a manner consistent with mine. Lord, we ask for wisdom and clarity as we gather to serve our community. May our discussions be guided by fairness, integrity, and respect for one another. Grant us the patience to listen carefully, the courage to speak honestly, and the humility to consider perspectives different from our own. As we make decisions that affect families, neighborhoods, and future generations, may we do so with compassion, responsibility, and a commitment to the common good. Let our actions reflect our shared purpose, to serve this county with diligence, transparency, and care. May this time together be productive, thoughtful, and guided by the best interests of all whom we serve. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, please read the ethics statement.
The Ethics Commission has asked that I advise you that under certain circumstances, members of the public may qualify as lobbyists when they testify before the County Council. If so, the law requires that certain information be filed with the Ethics Commission. The chair of the Ethics Commission has asked that those who wish to testify in any form review the general information on lobbying sheet located on the Ethics website under Forms and Publications. If there are any questions about lobbying requirements, please contact the Ethics Commission at 410-222-4412.
Before we open our discussions and public hearings, I would like to remind everyone in the audience, whether testifying or as a member of the audience, that we must maintain decorum at all times within these chambers. Please understand that individual conversations in the audience are very disruptive to the proceedings, and I would kindly ask you to step out of the chambers if a side discussion is necessary. And before we begin, I'm just going to make a quick presentation. So as we all remember, COVID was a bit disruptive, and being chair of the council during COVID was a difficult time, but not everything followed a plan. Ms. Ravian served as chair during a portion of COVID, and she never got her official plaque and gavel presented to her in a public meeting. So even though it's a bit late, I wanted to present it to her tonight in front of everyone to receive her gavel and plaque. Thank you, Ms. Ravian. We will now open our invitation to the audience. This is an opportunity to speak briefly on any subject not included in the printed agenda. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair, we received 2 pieces which were shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts using our online testimony tool. And again, this is for comments on items not on the agenda tonight. Maisie Howard, Marcia Altoff, Greg Altoff, Michael Lofton, and Kyle Nimhard. All right, and I see that not everyone is necessarily here, so if there's anyone else who would like to speak on an item not on the agenda, you may also come up at this time. Mr. Nimhard, you can go right ahead.
Kyle Nimhard, Glen Burnie, Maryland. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the County Council. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Words spoken by the late Dr. Martin Luther King, whose birthday we observed yesterday. When I and members of my community, including Fruitown, brought our concerns to the County Council, we were agitated by the council's capitulation to private for-profit developers. I warned that a terrible precedent has been set for unsustainable growth in Anne Arundel County. The council seems hesitant to make minor tweaks to Bill 1924 because it has countywide implications. However, it did not appear to be a concern when the council was cavalier in passing said bill on April Fool's Day 2024. I'd like to quote an excerpt from comments by Office of Planning and Zoning on May 5th, 2025. The request for R10 is not consistent with the adopted Plan 2040 land use, the neighborhood preservation development policy area and surrounding area on the north side of New Freetown Road. The county's response, this zoning change to R10 zoning is consistent with Plan 2040 goals of providing additional opportunities for housing. By that logic, millionaires outside of the local communities can adversely impact the quality of life at local neighborhoods' expense, in addition to receiving discounts on impact fees, all due to the April Fool's Day Bill 1924. What are we doing here? The ends do not justify the means. I consistently kick myself for not following county council matters closely as I should have. I take personal responsibility for that. But the council was also voted into office because people put their trust in you to do the right thing and do what's in their best interests. That trust has been broken. To quote Judge Lynn Toddler, trust is like a vase. Once it's broken, though you can fix it, the vase is never the same again. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Nemhard. Yes, sir.
Do it. Good evening. I'm Mike Lofton. I've lived on Polling House Road in Harwood for 50 years and been a resident of this county for 60 years, actually a little more than that. I was the founding chair of the Arundel Water Access Committee, founding chair of the Arundel Water Access Commission, and served as a member of the Arundel Recreation Advisory Board. I come before you tonight to ask you to tell the public what the plan is for Discovery Village. When the council acted to terminate the 30-year lease of Discovery Village, it did so with promises from the administration and the District 7 council member to work to preserve access at Discovery Village. A short-term lease resuming access was signed, which now has only 18 months remaining. Since it opened 9 years ago, the village has provided a home for many quality of life, enriching experiences, and supported essential organizations. It served as operating base for commercial watermen, home for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation Oyster Restoration, headquarters for the West Road Riverkeeper, provided production premises for maritime businesses, and an access point for first responders to marine emergencies, a venue for cultural activities, and a public boat launch for the county with the most boats, the most trailered boats, and the fewest public boat launches. Hundreds of people have signed petitions calling for permanent solution. Dozens have attended and spoken at public meetings. Arts organizations, maritime business executives, community leaders, and environmental groups are eager to join in and see that Discovery Village reaches its potential to serve this community. Make Discovery Village a permanent, full-functioning public resource that meets the many well-documented needs of this community. Tell the public what the plan is. Please act with urgency, transparency, and in the words of my former boss, do it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lofton. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on an item not on the agenda? Seeing no movement, the invitation to audience is now closed. Is there any item any council member would like to place on the agenda? Okay. May I have a motion that the partial reading of any bill, resolution, amendment to a bill or resolution, or minutes constitutes the reading of the whole?
So moved. Allison Pickard.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Secretary, please read the minutes of the legislative session of January 5th and the closed meeting minutes of January 5th, 2026.
The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 7:05 p.m. It was opened with the invocation given by Ms. Radby, and it was followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting was held in the County Council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland. Minutes of the closed session. A closed meeting was called on January 5th, 2026, in accordance with Section 305B1 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss a personnel matter. Chair Hummer opened the meeting at 9:25 p.m. and was held in room 143 of the Arundel Center in Annapolis, Maryland.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the legislative session of January 5th and the closed session meetings of January 5th, 2026?
So moved. Rodman, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes of the legislative session of January 5th and the closed meeting minutes of January 5th, 2026 stand approved as read. Madam Secretary, please read the title of the bills to be introduced this evening.
Bill number 726, an ordinance concerning current expense budget, supplementary appropriations. Bill number 826, an ordinance concerning current expense budget, Board of Education, supplementary appropriations and transfers of funds. Bill number 926, an ordinance concerning zoning, conditional uses, battery energy storage systems. And Bill number 1026, an ordinance concerning boards, commissions, and similar bodies, Police Accountability Board training.
Madam Secretary, please read the titles of the resolutions to be introduced this evening.
Resolution number 126, resolution establishing an ad hoc committee to study and make recommendations on the implementation of a project labor agreements policy on certain county-funded construction projects.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9225 as amended.
Bill number 9225, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, zoning, cottage home development.
Okay, Mr. Smith, this is your bill.
Thank you. As for those who've been following along, one of the things that we've been missing in Anne Arundel County is a inventory of housing that we have wanted to create for folks who don't make a lot of money. This cottage home bill was designed and sort of originated in a way to create that inventory. And I always use the marker of 250,000 or less. And so if you go online and you try to buy a house in Anne Arundel County and you don't make a significant amount of money, it's really hard for you to purchase a home here. In fact, the average house here in Anne Arundel County is that is sold is somewhere around $510,000 to even purchase. And so that doesn't solve the problem for folks who make less than $100,000 a year when they go try to get a loan to purchase a house. They don't have the resources to do that. And so this county, over the last couple of years, have tried to introduce policies that have made it open up the door to allow some development to occur, but particularly to pay attention to folks on the lower income side of the spectrum. And what I mean by that 30 to 80% of area median income, somewhere in the ballpark of $30,000 to $100,000 a year. So if your household income is less than $100,000 a year and you want to go buy a house in Anne Arundel County, it is almost impossible for you to do that. And so in order to accommodate and to create that first step or to create that inventory, cottage homes, which have sort of popped up all over the country, quite frankly, and a variety of different designs and measures that I think could solve some of the problems we have here, this bill came to light. It's similar to some degree in ADU, but that has to be attached to a permanent residence, whereas this particular measure, it adds some density in the lower income or the lower range zoning areas like R1, R2, R5, R10, where the density of that could increase to accommodate some of these houses. They can be no larger than 800 square feet. The more square foot they are, the higher and more they cost. And so we've done a lot of homework in determining and figuring out how we can create a product where developers and builders will build it so that it can become a reality here in Anne Arundel County. And so that's exactly what this bill is. At the appropriate time, you'll see an amendment that adds W1 as a special exception to that, and we'll get to that. We'll discuss that once we get to it. But this is certainly a tool in the tool belt that we are trying to foster and create in this county that will allow folks to actually have home ownership and create something that's beautiful and amazing that they can have to start their life. It was targeted primarily for young folks who are like 20 to in that young age of starting out in their life, as well as seniors who are trying to downsize, and they don't need a 2,500 square foot house. My goal has always been to create a product where the mortgage might be in a ballpark of $1,000 a month. That is affordable in my mind in Anne Arundel County. And I should have turned my alarm off before that happened. Sorry about that. But that is precisely what this cottage home bill does. And hopefully at the appropriate time we'll have the amendment. But we're encouraging and hoping folks would support this effort because it will create that first step, that inventory of housing in that $100,000 to $250,000 range where folks can actually own a piece of the American dream here in Anne Arundel County. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the admin.
Okay. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Lynn Miller, our Assistant Planning and Zoning Officer, Kelly Kenny, our Supervising County Attorney, and Aaron Karpowitz, the CEO of Arundel Community Development Services. We have discussed this bill at a couple prior meetings and at a work session, so I won't belabor the point. We are supportive of expanding housing types around the county. We're happy to answer any questions and discuss the amendments at the appropriate time.
Okay. So any discussion? All right. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 9225 as amended. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 6 pieces which were shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. We have Maisie Howard, Brooke Shandelmeyer, Sarah Bigelow, and Mike Lofton. And if there's anyone else who would like to speak who did not sign up ahead of time, you may come up at this time as well. All right, Mr. Lofton.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. My name is still Mike Lofton. I still live in Harwood, longtime resident and a member of the board of directors of Growth Action Network. And I'm speaking, representing both of those interests this evening on 9225. Like many others, we are concerned about the scarcity of affordable housing in the county. We strongly support the basic concept of the bill, believe that it has the potential to create significant numbers of new homes, suitable both as starter homes for young people and for smaller homes for smaller families with moderate incomes. We are, however, concerned that without additional limitations, the bill would allow intense residential developments in areas to which it is ill-suited. We also think that it may run afoul of state law. As you know, state law requires the county to establish a comprehensive plan every 10 years, which you have done in the form of Plan 2040. These plans are intended to be more than aspirational statements. The Land Use Code requires the county to implement its comprehensive plan by adopting zoning and development laws and regulations that are consistent with the plan. In the preamble to the statute that created that section, the legislature clarified what consistency meant, stating its intention that comprehensive plans should be followed as closely as possible and deviation should be rare. The land use portion of the plan established several types of development policy areas, some of which were intended to support only limited development, some were designated targeted development, redevelopment, and revitalization, in which growth is to be concentrated. The first category includes rural, agricultural, and peninsula and neighborhood preservation areas, in which additional development is to be limited. As drafted, however, the bill would allow cottage home developments throughout the entire county. We believe this would be inconsistent with the express intentions of Plan 2040 and thus in violation of Maryland law. Accordingly, we believe that this new type of development should be limited to the areas the plan designates as targeted development areas, and with that limitation, we would wholeheartedly support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lofton. Mr. Waddy.
Hello, my name is Stephen Waddy. I'm here on behalf of the Anne Arundel County NAACP, and we definitely support this bill. We do support the increase in affordable housing here in Anne Arundel County. And to go along with what the councilman said, I would say that I would start at 315,000 because that is generally where you're seeing most of the housing being built over the past 15 to 20 years in this county. So we haven't seen housing that is built below $315,000 at the same rate as that has been built above $315,000. Being a real estate agent myself, I was constantly looking for that type of housing for people who wanted to live in Anne Arundel County, but ended up having to go either to Baltimore City or Baltimore County, the western side of Baltimore County, generally to try and find, or it's western Baltimore City into Randallstown area, who were trying to find housing that they could afford, even though teachers wanted to live in this county. One woman that I worked with, she was working for Northrop Grumman and had been working there for 20 years and couldn't afford to live in Anne Arundel County in a house that had been built within the last 20 years. So she had the property that she had to go for if she wanted to live in Anne Arundel County on a salary from Northrop Grumman. She had to leave the county. And so working people, she needs that type of housing to be able to reduce her commute and spend time with her children. She's a recent divorcee as well. So those are the people that need this housing. And as her older children aged out, she would have the opportunity to downsize and move into a cottage home and be able to find some place in Anne Arundel County that she could stay. So We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waddy. Mr. Gross.
Max Gross, here on behalf of Anne Arundel County Association of Realtors. I wasn't planning on testifying tonight because we have previously voiced our support for this bill, but I was reminded that sometimes it's worth saying something twice, and sometimes it's worth hearing something twice. As the administration said, we support expanding available housing options in as many ways as possible, especially in the middle, the missing middle and the lower range. When it comes to density, if you've seen these cottage cluster communities, this is not an urban sprawl. This is not overtaxing the land. These are nice looking neighborhoods. They're nice looking communities. Giving the option to build them makes perfect sense, and we support this bill, as well as both amendments being offered tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 9225?
My name is Tim Stern. I'm the chair of Anne Arundel Connecting Together. I'm here tonight to champion affordable housing in our county because we just don't have enough for young families, small families, and for people who are getting older in age. We're here tonight to voice our support for the amendments that are put forth by Pete Smith and Allison Pickard. We appreciate their work on this bill. We think this is an important first step toward making more affordable housing available in our county, and we urge your support for these amendments. We already have stated our support for the original bill. Thank you very much. 1115 Generals Highway, Crownsville.
Thank you, Mr. Stern. The public hearing on Bill number 9225 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9225 as amended.
Bill number 9225, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, zoning, cottage home development.
Okay, there are two amendments. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 3.
Amendment number 3. This amendment allows cottage home developments as a special exception in a W1 zoning district.
Okay, Mr. Smith, this is your amendment.
So this amendment was brought about because as we dove into it, I do want to caveat something. There will be one more amendment coming at the next council meeting. I did have the opportunity to speak with ACDS, and they offered some extremely important guidance on how we administer the program. And because I was still working to get all that language finalized, just kind of ran out of time with everything else that's going on tonight. And so you'll see that coming forward here in the future. But particularly to this one, the conversation about mobile homes had come up with special exceptions. And believe it or not, when we were going through the code book, we found that was still in there, and they referenced that there are spaces within the county where a special exception might be appropriate to allow a development like this, and that henceforth why we have W1 as a potential location for this type of development to occur as a special exception. And so I don't know if the administration had any, but I thought this was worth bringing forward. Because it will certainly open up some opportunities here that 100% makes sense for this development. Motion to adopt.
Rodvian, second.
Okay. Any discussion? Ms. Fiedler?
I just have a clarifying question about the amendment. It looks like it says permitted in the chart in W1, but special exception in the description.
So that was an error. It should be permitted in the description because it is a special use, and the conditions for that special use in industrial are included in the section 1812-804.
Okay, thank you.
But it will be SE on the chart itself, or just be permitted?
It's permitted on the chart.
Okay, just you seeing the SE on some of those charts.
Right. Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Miller, we had an opportunity earlier today to talk through the Article 18 comprehensive update that's been posted publicly and some of the definitions that the Office of Planning and Zoning would like to see added to the code. So I'm specifically looking at item 193 in the draft. It's item 214, and it deals with the definition of what is a W1 district. And specifically what the Office of Planning and Zoning would like to define as the purpose of a W1 district appears to me, it says add a purpose statement, quote, the W1 Industrial Park District is intended for development of office parks, business complexes, and research and development campuses. How does the administration see cottage home developments as fitting into that?
Lynn Miller, Planning and Zoning. First of all, I will say purpose and intent statements, when they're added to a zoning ordinance, are a general description, and they don't necessarily reflect every use that might be allowed in that district, generally speaking. Having said that, I think the administration's not opposed to the idea of expanding opportunities for cottage home developments. I would say there might be some other zoning districts that might be better suited for this type of development as opposed to W1. I say that only because most of our W1 inventory is developed with office parks, technology parks, sometimes light industrial uses. The allowances for residential are fairly limited. They're usually higher density types of residential, multifamily or townhomes. So that's something the sponsor might want to consider, whether adding it to maybe some of the commercial zoning districts might be a better fit.
And that's primarily why I chose the special exception, because I know that's a higher threshold to achieve, to accomplish some of those developments to occur there. And so it would really have to align with the intent of the county, and that space would just, there are community engagement pieces that's aligned with special exception. But the fact that mobile home parks are allowed in there as a special exception, it just, in my mind, they aren't too far apart when it comes of small spaces to live that are nested in some of these limited land parcels that might be ideal if the situation permits itself. And so that's partially why I thought it was important to include the W1 as a special exception, not as necessarily just as a permitted use, so that the developer, whoever brings it forward, would have to show a significant logical reason why it would make sense there.
Can I follow up?
Yes.
Thank you. So just to be clear, it is, I think we covered this a minute ago, but I was looking at something. So it shouldn't be a P in here for permitted, it should be an SE for special exception in the amendment that we have. So this is a typo in the amendment? Is that right?
No, I
Because
would
in the
not say
language at
that's
the bottom,
correct.
it says it's special exception, but in the actual body of the chart, it's a P for permitted, not an SE for special exception.
Yes, and as council staff just noted, it's the note in italics that's incorrect, so.
Right. So it's a permitted use, not a special exception use.
Correct.
That's what we're voting
correct,
on.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And so I believe the sponsor may be understandably getting these mixed up, but because the bill proposes a cottage home development as a special use, then it would not be treated either as conditional or a special exception, because the conditions that normally would apply to a conditional or special exception use are written into the special use Title 12. So they're covered, but it would not be a special exception the way the bill's drafted. It would be a special use.
What's the administration's position on this amendment? I don't think you all have said that yet.
So I think I would echo Ms. Miller's comments that I think obviously we're supportive of expanding the zoning areas where these types of developments can be built. I think some other zoning areas might be a better fit than a W1.
So do you support it or do you not support the amendment?
I think we would.
It's a yes or no?
We would prefer the alternative amendment that's after this one.
So you don't support this amendment 3, correct?
I would say sure. I mean, it's as Ms. Miller said, most of this area is already developed with office parks and light industrial.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify further, special exception, a cottage home development proposal would not be heard by the administrative hearing officer. It would go through planning and zoning based on the provisions in this bill.
That's correct.
Mr. Smith?
So I think there obviously is some confusion here because when this was being drafted, the assumption was that this was going to be as a special exception use within, and so if it needs to be reconfigured with additional language or modified, I'm willing to withdraw that amendment and come back to the drawing board on it to correct that, because I definitely wanted it as not a special use, but as a special exception. And so when I go back to Title 18 and I go to, I'm going to bring this back up here for (1811). For the sake of efficiency, because I don't want to drag this on, if someone can withdraw their second. I know Ms. Ravian is the one that second the motion to adopt.
I can do that.
I'll withdraw my first, because I want to get some clarity on making sure, because the intent was definitely to have it as a special exception use within W1, not as a special use, because I think the special exception process adds additional safety mechanisms so that other spaces could be protected. So I'm fine with withdrawing my amendment at this time.
Okay. All right, so amendment number 3 is withdrawn. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 4.
Amendment number 4, this amendment allows cottage home developments in certain commercial and mixed-use zoning districts.
Ms. Pickard, this is your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment expands the allowable locations of cottage home developments to include certain commercial and mixed-use districts. This bill would allow cottage homes in C2 and C3 commercial districts, as well as mixed-use V, which is village, or G, general, and N, neighborhood districts. Adding these zoning districts would provide the opportunity to locate cottage homes as an edge or transition from single-family housing to more commercial or intensely developed areas in several of the zoning districts where we already allow workforce housing. Motion to adopt.
Do I have a second? So I'll second. All right. Administration, you're.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I said before, we are supportive of expanding the zoning districts where these types of developments can be built. So we're supportive of this amendment.
Okay. Any discussion? Mr. Volkey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Miller, again, I'm going back to the updates for Article 18, line 172 and 173, where their definitions, lines 171 and 172, where the definitions of C2 commercial office district and C3 general commercial district are defined. C2, the Office of Planning and Zoning would like to define the purpose statement as intended to provide office space in a range of commercial uses that typically support office and employment uses. The C2 district may also include a range of residential dwelling types under certain conditions, and C3 is intended to provide a wide range of more intense commercial uses that serve a regional market. These districts are typically located at key commercial nodes within the highway network and generally include shopping centers and large retail establishments. C3 district may also include a range of residential dwelling types under certain conditions. Having heard that my colleague mentioned that workforce housing is allowed in some of these, do you see these cottage homes as being the same thing as workforce housing, which my understanding of how those are being built is that they're being a different product type offered in these types of zones? They're not necessarily going to come in and have a whole bunch of single-family homes in a C2 or a C3 district. So is it the Office of Planning and Zoning's position that this amendment is consistent with what we want to have in a C2 and a C3 zone?
Lynn Miller, I would say generally yes. I mean, those zoning districts have already recently been opened up to some other missing middle types of housing, if you recall. So I think just over time, those districts, we have all agreed to allow a little more flexibility as compared to the W1 district, which we really haven't opened up to that type of housing yet.
Just to follow up on that briefly. So we spend a lot of time when we go through the general development plan looking at both the land use designation, what we call the land, whether it's designated as commercial or residential, different things, and the intensity of that we then look at with the zoning. I guess what I'm trying to understand is we seem to be getting away from the underlying land use designation being what we say it is. So if we designate land as commercial, but it can be used for residential or for all these other different purposes, or if we designate land as industrial, but now all of a sudden it can be used for commercial and residential, what's the purpose of the underlying land being designated as something? Why does that even matter anymore?
Lynn Miller again. Well, again, Councilman Volke, to date, this council and previous councils have provided for a lot more flexibility in these zoning districts. So that's the place that we're at now. And the reasons for that were all discussed, when various pieces of legislation were being heard. So there's still value in having a purpose and intent description of the zoning district, but it's really not meant to, it would be very difficult to write purpose and intent statements that address every single use that's allowed in every zoning district. So by nature, you do have to generalize a bit.
Ms. Ravian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple thoughts here. First, this whole bill is limited to places that have access to public water and sewer. Is that correct? So that by itself rules out huge swaths of the county that could not be home to cottage homes unless, unless public water and sewer were extended to those areas. So that already provides one limitation. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to, give some folks that expressed concerns about that a little bit of peace of mind. And then with respect to Mr. Volke's question, probably, I would say this council and previous councils, and you might know more about previous councils than I do, have generally been more protective of the character of residential zoning in terms of keeping residential zoning residential, that we're not putting commercial entities or industrial uses in the middle of a residential area. Whereas if, there might be a commercial property, or it's zoned, I won't say commercial property, but it's zoned for commercial use, and it still might be an appropriate fit for something residential. That's kind of where we've loosened things up. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay. So I think that, those categories still have that, that basis, and they still provide, you look at parts of the county that are zoned commercial, they're largely commercial. Areas that are zoned industrial, maybe a little bit more mixed, but, still predominantly industrial.
Ms. Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the questions are always good to have around amendments. When we talk about missing middle housing types and expanding housing choice around the county, we've seen this type of housing discussed in every single region plan. They have a whole page or two dedicated to missing middle. But part of the concepts with bringing in the diversity of housing type is to also create walkable neighborhoods and communities, and these cottage courtyard as a missing middle housing type are really perfect for those infill properties in those transitional areas of the county. I know in my district we have the BWMC hospital, and there's definitely some opportunities of infill, whether it's a redevelopment opportunity or just a small commercially zoned, not yet developed. I can see it. I can see the parcel in my head. That would be ideal for this kind of small community. So that's what I had in mind. If the highest and best use of a commercial or even a mixed use property is commercial, that's what it's going to be developed as. But we do have sort of these smaller 1, 2, 2.5 acre parcels around the county that we could expand this type of housing into, and it would be, I think it could really uplift some of our, especially in our older commercial corridors and our transitions between commercial and residential. I know we have a lot of that in the north and central part of the county. So with that, I ask for my colleagues' support of this amendment. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I was just going to add that the spaces that exist in Northern District and District 1 specifically that we have been looking at over the years to try to find solutions to address some of the housing concerns that we do have. What I found when we've done our research is that there are these transitional spaces to some degree and land that is not ideal for a large-scale community, but it'll provide a resource for these types of houses that are small. And remember, because these are small, the goal is not for this to be a large family and living in these things. I mean, if they're maybe 1 bedroom or less, you're hopefully not going to have like 8 people living in it. And so, I'm supportive of the amendment. I think it does, provide. There were a couple areas I thought maybe they should be either condition-based, like in commercial, but I'll go with the appetite of the council. The mixed use, I'm definitely supportive of, because they make it make perfect sense for those areas that are near transportation corridors as well. And so they would be ideal for this type of development. And so hopefully we can get some consensus on this amendment.
All right. Any further comment? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 4.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volke?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Amendment number 4 has been adopted.
Okay. All right. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9725.
Bill number 9725, an ordinance concerning boards, commissions, and similar bodies, Veterans Affairs Commission.
All right. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, and joining me for the first time, Ron Burrow, our vice chair of the Veterans Affairs Commission, who can give much more detail about what the commission is working on and what they've accomplished in the last year. Just very briefly, this bill is a request of the commission. It is to expand the scope of the Veterans Affairs Commission to include issues that impact active duty military members and their families. It will bring the commission more in line with changes at the state to the Department of Veterans Affairs and Military Families. A good number of the inquiries that both the commission and the Veterans Services Coordination Center receive involve military families, and so this change in the name and scope of the commission would address that reality and will allow the commission to make recommendations to the county executive and county council about how to holistically provide services to our armed service members and their families in Anne Arundel County. I will just briefly add, we discussed this at the work session and we had talked about a potential amendment. We determined that amendment was not needed. Reserve members and National Guard members are included in the definition that allow them to serve on the Veterans Affairs Commission. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Burrow to offer some brief comments.
Mr. Burrow?
Excuse me, thank you. The main purpose behind the amendment was to recognize the overlap and changes in how services are being provided to veterans and military families. We're following what the state offered, or what the state changed in terms of its statutes and regulations. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to provide a more holistic and a more comprehensive advice in terms of policy and programs, and also in terms of advocacy on behalf of the commission. The language in the legislation only addresses the authorities of the commission. It does not go to changing any rights, entitlements, or benefits for veterans at the state or federal level.
All right. Is there any discussion? Mr. Smith?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Ms. Ledbetter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a brief statement. My husband is a veteran, which means by definition, my family is a military family. So prior to tonight's hearing, I did reach out to the Ethics Commission for an official opinion to make sure that I was clear to participate. They gave me their blessing, determining that my and my family's interests are no different than that of the general public. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually had a question at the work session, so I'm very happy to see you here today. Thank you for representing veterans and their families in Anne Arundel County. Just to understand the shuffling of the composition, can you just touch on some of the points? I'm not second guessing it. I just want to, for interest's sake, understand the change to the composition.
Certainly. What we looked at in the composition was to clarify some of the both non-voting members and some of the voting members to include someone who is a service member and a spouse of a service member, which, as we said, includes National Guard and Reserves. So those are the two new positions will be added to the existing. The other changes that we made with regard to voting members went to the member representing the business community and member representing the educational community. The original legislation said that the designation of someone from the business community could be coordinated with the Chamber of Commerce. There had really been no interaction or interest, and so we eliminated that language, just allowing the general representation from the business community. And the same on the education side. We do have a very active member from the Anne Arundel Community College who's involved in the commission now. By changing that language, it allows, she's a non-voting member, it would allow her to become a voting member with the approval of the county executive. And the last thing that we changed really just went to the general provisions for non-voting members and the requirements there to open that up to allow more participation from the veteran community.
Wonderful. That was a great explanation. I really appreciate it.
Ms. Ravdian.
Thank you. I just needed to make the same disclosure as my District 7 colleague. My husband is a veteran of the U.S. Army.
And I will add the same disclosure. My husband is also an Army veteran. Mr. Smith.
I mean, since we're disclosing, I'm actually a still serving member in the Marine Corps and have been for the last almost 28 years. And so I'll put that on the record. I didn't necessarily think this changing in the composition was going to impact us in any meaningful way as far as my participation in it, but I will disclose I am a serving member in the armed forces.
So any other discussion? Okay, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 9725. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 3 pieces which were shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay, we will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Maisie Howard, Deborah Luzietta Myers, and I'm Ron Burrow, but I'm not going to call you because you just spoke. There we go. And if there's anyone else who wishes to speak on this bill, you may also come up at this time. Go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all tonight. My name is Deborah Luzetti Myers. I am one of the people that submitted written testimony, and I am currently serving as the chair of the Legal and Legislative Committee of the Veterans Affairs Commission. That particular committee was tasked with drafting the comments and recommendations for this particular bill. Mr. Burrow and I took an active part in that. So mostly if there was any questions, I would be happy to answer them, but Ron did a wonderful job. He explained the basics for it. There was one piece regarding the question of some of the changes to the membership. We had an extended list of organizations that we were originally looking at and that the code looked at for many years in terms of looking for people that were in those particular organizations. I happen to have worked for one of the major organizations in addition to my active duty service for the last 30 plus years. And there's about the VA, looking at their website, they recognize over 100 veteran service organizations, but they principally work with about 6 of them because those 6 organizations are the ones that are still doing claims processing, and it's a very expensive and detailed process, and so a lot of the organizations that were on that list are no longer doing that. In addition, some of the organizations, their membership has simply aged out. For example, we are not finding a lot of Korean War veterans any longer that are interested in actively volunteering. And the younger vets, we want to be a diverse organization of active duty veterans, reservists, and military families, recognizing that those that stay at home also serve. And in doing so, we have found that the younger vets are not joining traditional veteran service organizations, but are creating their own. And so we wanted to be able to include those, the most important thing being that they're out in the community, they're working with our military and our veterans, and they can bring information to the commission and bring information from the commission back to them.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Louisiana Myers. So appreciate that. All right, the public hearing on Bill number 9725 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9725.
Bill number 9725, an ordinance concerning boards, commissions, and similar bodies, Veterans Affairs Commission.
All right, is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 9725.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 9725 has passed.
Thank you all for coming out. All done. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9825.
Bill number 9825, an ordinance concerning public works, traffic, zoning, signs.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. Joining me at the table, I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, and Lynn Miller, our assistant planning and zoning officer. This bill has been discussed at a couple of prior work sessions back in November and then again earlier this month. I will turn it over to Ms. Miller if she wants to just add a brief summation of the bill. There are 2 amendments we'll discuss at the appropriate time, and then we're happy to answer any questions as well.
Sure, I'm Lynn Miller, Planning and Zoning. As discussed in the recent work session, there were a few primary goals related to this sign code update. First and foremost, we wanted to bring our code up to sync with recent case law that has dealt with the topic of content-neutral signage, and we believe we've done that. We also wanted to modernize it to address a much wider range of sign types that are used out there in the world today, and we wanted to make it based on more current best practices, model ordinances that we've seen, and also to provide more allowances and more flexibility for our commercial stakeholders. So we believe that we found a good balance with those goals, and appreciate the council's support.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 9825. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, we will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Maisie Howard, Mike Lofton, Effie Brock. And if there's anyone else who would like to speak on this bill, you may also come up at this time. All right, Mr. Lofton.
Thank you. Mike Lofton, Polling House Road, Harwood, longtime resident, speaking as a member of the Board of Directors of Growth Action Network. I specifically want to thank the administration for including GAN representative. I was that representative in the work group on this. I think it's a good practice. This wasn't the most fun one to be on, but I think the practice of bringing diverse groups together and listening to and incorporating ideas and opinions is a good process. Our comments on the bill as it stands now deal primarily with the usefulness of a robust education program to equip citizens, HOAs, business associations, chambers of commerce, and county and enforcement staff with the purpose and requirements established by this change. While the intention to produce a supplemental user guide is wise, we recommend including a self-guided video tutorial that will be a first stop for interested parties to gain an understanding of the new requirements, see examples of signs that conform and those that do not. We also recommend implementation of enforcement protocols that track complaints, describe compliance and penalty schedules, produce periodic compliance reports, and require all temporary signs to include name, date of placement, and contact information for the sign owner. The proposal here is very specific and may well lend itself to the use of a AI tool to actually process many of these. And it's likely that in some cases, that would be all that's required. The tool would be able to discern discrepancies and kick those over to a human being to review. So maybe the county's already doing that. I don't know. Seems like an opportunity. Finally, the update of the county sign code offers an opportunity to modernize regulation of outdoor lighting. And we encourage examination and consideration of standards recommended by a group called Dark Sky, which is further recommended by the Audubon Society, and could well be a model for modernizing the code in terms of lighting standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lofton. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is F.A. Brock, and I live on President Street in Annapolis. I'm here to offer testimony on Bill 9825, specifically regarding Section 18311D, which authorizes temporary signage in county rights-of-way. I want to start by acknowledging the collaborative work effort that went into this comprehensive bill. Its stated purposes reflect sound planning principles, reducing visual clutter, minimizing driver distraction, and preventing physical hazards in transportation corridors. My concern is that subsection D runs counter to and undermines those very objectives. My first concern relates to safety. The bill explicitly states transportation safety through the reduction of distractions and physical hazards in its purpose. Authorizing sign placement in rights-of-way creates both distractions and hazards. Drivers encountering repeated visual stimuli in their sightlines and individuals entering traffic corridors to install, maintain, and hopefully remove that signage. State law already prohibits unpermitted temporary signage in state rights-of-way in a constitutional and content-neutral way. Additionally, it explicitly authorizes counties to enforce that prohibition through assessing and collecting civil penalties. If the county wants to address the clutter and safety issues these signs cause, why not adopt parallel language for county rights-of-way? I recommend that the County Council make the following amendments to this legislation. Strike Section 18311D in its entirety and confine temporary signage, all temporary signage to private property. Adopt language mirroring the state prohibition and authorize county enforcement as outlined in the state code. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. Ms. Bray.
Good evening, members of the council, Madam Chair. My name is Kinley Bray. I'm here on behalf of NAIOP Maryland tonight. And first of all, I'd like to thank OPZ staff for engaging in a meaningful process, as Mr. Lofton said, with members of the industry. I believe we had 6 total meetings of a work group to go over the details of this proposal, starting with sort of the legal framework and expanding into the draft that you see before you. NAIOP believes this bill is a step in the right direction. We just have 2 issues we believe warrant further discussion and potential amendment. First, the bill exempts interior signage that's not visible from a public right-of-way, but only for uses like arenas and stadiums. And we've asked that interior signage within an industrial or business park be similarly exempted if it is not visible from a public right-of-way. We also appreciate that the ability to seek an approved sign program has been extended to business complexes, but believe the minimum acreage for eligibility ought to be lowered from 10 acres to something smaller, perhaps 2 or 5 acres. The sign ordinance that exists today is very complicated, and even though this bill is an improvement, it is still a complicated structure, and our concern is that complicated land use codes tend to lead to noncompliance or enforcement issues in the long run. We believe these two changes would potentially alleviate the administrative burden of sign permit approval for interior signage for new business and industrial parks throughout the county and focus resources on signs that are visible to the public. We're happy to work with the administration or council members to craft appropriate amendments to do so. And again, thank you both to the council and to the staff of the administration for the work that has been put in.
Thank you, Ms. Bray. Mr. Higgins.
Paul Higgins, Pasadena, Maryland. I was reviewing this bill, and I do not disagree that our ordinances need to be updated. And these ordinances have quite a history. But in this bill, we're affecting 3 separate sections of the code. The summary for this bill is 10 pages. The bill itself is 21 pages. When I searched the bill, 3 words, traffic control device, comes up 16 times in the bill, twice in the summary. I have no objection against what the bill as a sign control bill is for, but we are starting to lump in signal and control of traffic into something that is completely different. And my history with this, there's a lot of standards that have to be followed, and I think this bill is going to open the door for some arbitrary decisions by the director, as allowed by the proposed bill, that isn't there now. And I would ask, without provisions to take traffic control out of this, that this bill be turned down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. So the public hearing on Bill number 9825 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9825.
Bill number 9825, an ordinance concerning public works, traffic, zoning, signs.
All right, there are 2 amendments. Madam Secretary, please read the title of amendment number 1. Please read
Amendment number 1. This amendment allows signs that have been in the same location for at least 20 years to remain in place or to be replaced in kind.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's exactly what it does. It basically allows signs that have been there for a while to remain there and to be replaced in kind if they fall into disrepair.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Do I have a second? Okay. All right. Any discussion? Mr. Volkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Miller, I want to understand, I just got a memo, I'm trying to find where it is in my inbox, where the Office of Planning and Zoning wants to undo a particular provision in code that allows for a business that's been in operation for 20 years to continue in operation. That was passed in 2015 by Councilman Grasso. Office of Planning and Zoning noted that this was a 4-3 vote. Noted that this is bad land use policy, it's poor decision making to basically say that something that is, not legal at the time that it came into effect, just because it's been there for 20 years, it shouldn't be allowed to continue. Understanding that same rationale and logic, how do we get to this amendment?
Lynn Miller, Planning and Zoning. So the code already has a similar in-kind replacement policy for structures. And it's in, I believe, 182303. So this amendment is really an expansion of that idea for in-kind replacement for signage as well. And the reason we feel that it's needed is because the bill currently contains grandfathering language that would apply to permitted signs, so signs that had a permit or that were lawfully allowed. But we believe that there's a very large number of signs out in the county that actually we don't really have a way to, they predate our current permitting system, so we have no way to track whether it ever had a permit, whether it was in compliance with the code at the time it was installed. We don't have a way to determine when they were installed. So logistically, due to the volume of them, it's either, we allow the same kind of in-kind replacement for those signs, or every single one of them will have to be treated as illegal, and we would have to take zoning enforcement measures whenever there was a complaint about one of them.
What's the number of complaints that you're getting on an annual basis relating to signs?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I would say that the majority of sign complaints that we get are related to temporary signs as opposed to permanent signs.
Ms. Kenny, are we currently, the county, in active litigation with any business or entity relating to sign regulations in the county?
Kelly County Supervising County Attorney. No, not that I know of.
Okay. And have we been sued as an entity, as a county entity, because some private entity has told us that we are violating their rights by our current sign law?
Kelly County Supervising County Attorney. No, I'm not aware of any entity or person that sued us for that.
Okay, Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the same concerns as my colleague. When you have a residential property and you replace your deck, you are required to do certain things that have changed in code since your deck was originally built. I can list a whole variety of scenarios where you have to bring whatever you are building, even if it's a replacement or an expansion, up to code. So I'm concerned with the replaced in-kind piece the most. If a sign is there and it's standing and I understand the challenge in maybe going and trying to address signs that have no issue, but if someone has to replace a sign or do a major repair to a sign that requires a permit, to me that would be the perfect opportunity to say the sign has to be made in compliance with current sign code. Just an opinion, not a question, but I appreciate the feedback.
But I'll follow up with a question. Why would we have it be that it could be replaced in kind? Why wouldn't we ask that it be replaced to bring up to the current code?
Well, to be clear, if the sign were being replaced, we would require them to get a permit. But this is saying that, if it's a sign that predates our systems and therefore there's no way for anyone to prove that it was lawfully installed, it seems reasonable, if it has been there that long, to allow it to remain in the same location. But in-kind replacement does not include enlarging the sign, moving the location, installing a different type of sign, etc. So it's literally same location, same size, or smaller, but the sign copy can be changed.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Nay.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volke?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendment number 1 has failed.
Madam Secretary, please please read amendment number 2.
Amendment number 2. This amendment removes the fees associated with an application for an off-site directional sign.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's exactly what it does. Takes away the fee for the application for directional signs.
Okay. All right. May I have a motion to adopt?
Rodvian, so moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Mr. Volke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that you're removing a fee, because I think that's a good start. What fees remain in this bill after this comes out? Are there no fees now?
Lynn Miller, Planning and Zoning. I believe that is the intent of the Department of Public Works, to not charge a fee for an off-site directional sign, but I would prefer to let them determine that. Right now, what we've done is removed the process for reviewing and approving an off-site directional sign from OPZ, and we're proposing to transfer that to Department of Public Works, who's better equipped to evaluate signs in the public right-of-way. So it's their intent to produce, by the effective date of this bill, standards for how they would review an application for an off-site directional sign. And then at that time, I think they would also determine if they want to charge a fee or not.
Okay, but in the bill that I'm looking at, the proposed bill, I don't see anything about fees. So this looks like this is going into the code and adding something to the bill that isn't there yet. Am I reading that correctly, or did I miss it in the 21-page bill?
Kelly County Supervising County Attorney, this adds the language, this is existing language in the code, and it deletes the language that's an application fee to OPZ right now for directional signs. Since OPZ won't be reviewing them, that fee is being taken out
Right,
of
so
the
it's
code.
in the code, but it's not in the bill, so you're
Correct.
not bringing it into the bill with this amendment.
We're bringing it into the bill to delete it.
I got you.
Yeah.
You're adding it to the bill to do that. So then if I go back to the code, what other fees are still in the code?
With relation to signs?
Yes.
I mean, there's permit fees, that's in Article 15. I don't think there's anything in Article 18 that I can think of offhand as far as fees for signs, unless there's some other application, but, variance or something like that, then there's fees associated with that.
Okay, so then how come we're bringing the fees into Article 18 if they're currently in 15?
No, this is in Article 18. This is a fee, so for off-site directional signs, there's an application right now under the code that's made to the Office of Planning and Zoning to look at that and then confer with DPW as necessary to determine whether someone can have an permanent off-site directional sign.
Okay.
The fee is being deleted because OPZ is not going to be reviewing those applications anymore. So it's being deleted from Article 18.
But I can probably answer my own question by going to 18.18.101 of the code, which talks about signs off-site directional, 150 per sign, 25 for replacements. Next line. Signs and replacement signs for a critical area reclass, rezoning, special exception, variance, nonconforming, 35 per sign. So that's still going to stay, but you're just taking the off-site directional sign out of 18.18.101, just removing that entirely.
Those other types of signs that you're talking about, those are like your advertising signs
got you.
for
The ones that are white with the big
for
red
applications.
letter. I got you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all the rest of those signs that are in that fee section, which isn't
Okay.
very long, are for those
Yeah.
types of signs.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 2.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 2 has been adopted.
Okay. Bill number 9825 as amended will be heard on February 2nd, 2026. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill 9925.
Bill number 9925, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, agricultural land preservation, disclosure of right to farm.
Ms. Ledbetter, this is your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill is actually, I brought it forward at the request of the Ag Commission. And there is already a right to farm established in both state and county code. What this legislation I'm introducing does is it introduces a disclosure so that someone purchasing property that is within a certain distance or adjacent to agricultural land will receive a disclosure so they can be notified of the uses that could be taking place so that they are aware. It increases transparency for the buyer. It increases protection for the industry, the agricultural industry taking place nearby. And I ask for your support.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, Lynn Miller, our assistant planning and zoning officer, and I believe Anna Cheney, the chair of our agriculture commission, is in the audience. I thank the council member for bringing this legislation forward. It was a request of the Ag Commission. we discussed it at the work session, but it's the farming community at large has been experiencing an uptick in nuisance complaints from neighbors. We haven't experienced that so far in Anne Arundel County, but the Ag Commission thinks it's a good idea to get out in front of it. This legislation would simply require notice as part of the closing process, so that when someone buys a home adjacent to ag land, they know they're in a right to farm county. Bill is trying to proactively foster better relationships between farmers and their neighbors, and similar to legislation in other Maryland counties as well. I know Queen Anne's and Calvert counties have something similar. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, is there any discussion? Mr. Volkey?
Yeah, thank you. Who has to give this notice?
It would be provided, and I believe you will hear testimony from the Board of Realtors as well, but the real estate agent, if there was a real estate agent involved in the transaction, it would be included in disclosures. Otherwise, I believe it would probably have to be if there was no agent, the seller would be responsible for being aware that this disclosure needs to be provided.
Okay.
Is my interpretation. Office of Law might be able to validate my interpretation.
So you're going to buy a piece of property that's by a farm, and we have to tell you it's by a farm so that you know you're buying it by a farm.
And so that you understand that there may be, I know it sounds, there are folks who don't necessarily understand that agricultural industry can bring noises, smells, that if you're moving from a less rural area, it may not be something that you've experienced before. And then you move in next to it nearby, and you may find it to be a nuisance.
I'm going to call this the Green Acres Bill. Right?
But the goal is I think it's a good neighbor bill, to be aware that things might be different, and so that you won't be surprised later, and it can prevent conflict where there might be conflict without transparency.
I gave the example at the work session that I spoke to someone who was looking for a home, and then they went to see the house. They realized that next door was a bison farm, and to the smells and the possible other things that come with a bison farm would be good to make sure people are aware of before they move in next door. So, is there any other discussion? All right, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 9925. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, we will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. We have signed up Maisie Howard and Anna Cheney, and if there's anyone else who would like to speak, you may come up at this time as well. I know. Ms. Cheney.
Hi, Anna Cheney, Lothian, Maryland, Honey's Harvest Farm. So this bill provides transparency, and I do appreciate the name Green Acres. We'd love to see as many green acres in Anne Arundel County as possible. So it provides transparency for landowners, new buyers, farmers, and realtors. It provides clarity, very clear definitions for an agricultural operation, and generally accepted agricultural management practices, and parity with other counties in Maryland that do support agriculture and farming. And it is fully supported with unanimous vote by the Anne Arundel County Agriculture Commission. I have personally experienced both sides of the equation and find it very helpful to have something very clear when you're about to make a big investment. Also, as a farmer, with people who do move from other areas, not really expecting farming practices across the road. So I think this is a fantastic bill, and I do appreciate all of your support. Any questions? Happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Cheney.
Thank you.
Mr. Gross.
Max Gross, here on behalf of the Anne Arundel County Association of Realtors. You know me primarily as the Government Affairs Director, but a lesser known duty of mine is that I am the staff liaison to the Forms Committee. That means it is actually my job to update the form to implement this bill. And so if it has my approval, there's really no one left that can say no. And yes, it does have my approval, and it would not be the silliest thing that we inform buyers about.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. Now we know who to go to with all those forms when we buy a house. So, yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Brian Hewer. I actually am very much in support of this because we've been dealing with this, and Mrs. Radovine's office has been having to be a liaison between us and our neighbors because there's a lot of stuff that on farm we're allowed to do, and then they think that gives them permission to then do other things in their residential area that interfere or harass the people there in an attempt to get them to cease their operations that actually are related to the farm. And I don't want to go into too many details on that, but there's a huge conflict of interest because they see the big red barn when they buy the house, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, that's not really a farm because you're doing an orchard or berry bushes or keeping chickens on a different part of the property. So it's, I even go so far as it needs to be disclosed in any public listings.
Sir, could you give your name and address, please?
Brian Hewer, and our address is 2114 Edwin Lane, Crownsville.
All right. Thank you very much. So, all right, the public hearing on Bill number 9925 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 9925.
Bill number 9925, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, agricultural land preservation, disclosure of right to farm.
Any further discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 9925.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Abstain.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Radvian?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 abstain. Bill number 9925 has passed.
All right. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 10125.
Bill number 10125, an ordinance concerning general provisions, public works, landlord-tenant eviction.
All right, this is my bill, so give me a minute. I'm going to give a little background on this. This is the landlord-tenant bill. I have testified for the past 3 years on proposed state legislation to reform the eviction process across the state, and unfortunately, only a few improvements have passed in that time, so I decided to tackle it on the county level. In drafting this bill, I reached out to more than a dozen organizations that work with housing from both the tenant and landlord positions, and I want to thank them all for their valuable feedback and sharing their experiences. Unfortunately, there are times that individuals and families cannot afford to pay the rent, and landlords cannot afford to maintain a unit without payment. When this happens, the end result is often an eviction, which is painful for all parties involved. But there are currently procedures that we do that add unnecessary pain and hardship to the process that we can ameliorate. Currently, residents are given 6 days' notice of eviction, and then any belongings still in the unit are removed and dumped on the nearest public roadway to be pilfered or destroyed by the elements. Families already in precarious financial situations see their troubles intensified by the loss of household goods that they don't have the funds to replace, and children are traumatized by seeing their lives on the curb. Landlords and law enforcement do not like having to do this, but it's the current law. Under this bill, the belongings of evicted tenants will no longer be dumped on the curb. Instead, landlords, in the presence of the sheriff, will change the locks of a unit and can dispose of any remaining belongings at a later date. Tenants will be given a definite date for the change of locks, unlike now when eviction dates are often subject to change due to weather or other factors, thus allowing them to better plan for alternative housing and moving their belongings. Landlords will benefit from no longer having to have a moving crew on standby to empty units onto the street. Under current law, landlords must have a crew on hand, so even if an eviction is canceled at the last minute, the landlord must still pay the crew. Now they will have to pay a locksmith, but the removal of abandoned items can be done on their own time without a required crew. The current bill does include a reclamation period during which time a tenant can schedule to return their locked unit to retrieve belongings. The primary concern I heard from the landlords was for security during that reclamation period. Emotions are often very high during an eviction, and security for all parties is a valid concern. After speaking with all the groups, I have attempted to craft a compromise for the best outcome for both tenants and landlords, and I will speak to that amendment at the appropriate time. So Until then, Mr. Hunt for the administration.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, and Aaron Karpowitz, the chief executive officer of Arundel Community Development Services. We did discuss this bill at the work session. I appreciate the sponsors' collaboration and outreach on this bill. We are supportive of it. I think it's important, and the administration thinks it's important that both tenants and landlords have certainty around eviction timelines and that tenants' possessions are protected during the eviction process. We're happy to answer any questions and discuss the amendments at the appropriate time.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Ms. Rodvian.
I would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Great.
Thank
Noted.
you to my colleague.
Thank you, Ms.
for-
Rodvian.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for bringing this bill.
Okay. Ms. Ledbetter.
Apparently, it's my night for disclosures. This is just point of clarifications. In the past, I had disclosed earlier in my tenure that I was a landlord. I am no longer a landlord. So just want to make sure that
Disclosing she is no longer a landlord.
No, so I just want to make sure that we're clear. Circumstances have changed.
Got it. Mr. Volke.
Thank you. Disclosing I'm a landlord. Thanks.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to, again, make the same disclosure. I am no longer a landlord.
No longer a landlord. Okay. So we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 10125. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received one piece which was shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Maisie Howard, Jay McCleve, Matthew Pipkin, Jim Johnson, and if there's anyone else who would like to speak on this bill, you may also come forward at this time. Mr. McCleve, or should I say Deputy McCleve?
Thank you. Dear members of Anne Arundel County Council, my name is Jay McCleve and I'm the current president of Fraternal Order Police Lodge 106, which proudly represents the dedicated deputy sheriffs of Anne Arundel County. We stand in strong support of Bill 10125, which seeks to reform the eviction process in our county. Implementing Bill 10125 will also be beneficial for the deputy sheriffs of Anne Arundel County. An organized eviction process reduces conflict and the potential for confrontations during eviction proceedings. By ensuring that tenants are better informed and have the opportunity to retrieve their belongings, we can minimize the stress and emotional distress that often accompany these situations. This allows law enforcement personnel, including deputies, to carry out their duties more effectively and with greater community support, as it signals a commitment to fairness and compassion in law enforcement practices. In conclusion, we believe that adopting Bill 10125 is a significant step toward for Anne Arundel County. It not only enhances tenant protections, but also supports the quality of life for all residents, including our deputy sheriffs who serve the community with honor and dedication. We urge the council to support this important legislation. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Deputy McCleve. Mr. Pipkin.
Members of the Anne Arundel County Council, great to be back home. For the record, Matt Pipkin here on behalf of the Maryland Multi-Housing Association, 655 Burton's Cove Way, Annapolis, Maryland. You have my written testimony. I'll just try to be frank. There is a lot of common grounds, believe it or not, on this with landlord and tenant advocates. MMHA, who represents apartment owners and property management companies across the state and in Anne Arundel County, we have previously supported and actually have worked with county leaders on getting a clean lock and leave policy. And looking at the bill and looking at the amendments, I will still contend that the notice that currently is in place in law is adequate. However, we are amenable if it is the desire of the county to offer more notice, we will be okay with it. Most of our concerns, our heartburn really came about the reclamation period. Without getting too much into it, it would have increased rents. Inventory would have been artificially restricted, and there were significant public safety concerns with how it came about. But with the amendments, frankly, we are okay. So kindly ask your support on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Pipkin. Mr. Johnson.
Madam Chair, members of the council, my name is Jim Johnson. I represent one of the largest multi-housing providers in Anne Arundel County. My address is 6010 Cranbrook Road in Cockeysville, Maryland. I'm also a 40-year law enforcement executive professional. This bill has several concerns for me as it's currently written without the amendments. Who is responsible for the property left behind? Is it the property? Is it still the owner? Is it Anne Arundel County? My main concern is from a public safety perspective, and you've already touched on this. Oftentimes, frequently, these evictions are fraught with frustration from the tenant, anger, confusion. They're at one of the lowest points in their lives. Fortunately, we have the great professionals from Anne Arundel County Sheriff's Department. They're there. They're well-trained. They're skilled in de-escalation tactics. They're armed. They have a plethora of resources that they can summons at an instant. Currently, the bill would allow the tenant to come back to the property after the sheriff's already gone. They're not positioned to come back. They're not 911 call driven. So it'll fall back on the Anne Arundel County Police Department that already has limited resources. It's not a county problem, it's a national problem. We have 20 and 25-year-old maintenance men who are not trained in de-escalation tactics. What do you expect them to do? So with these amendments, we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Waddy.
Hello, my name is Stephen Waddy. I live at 7968 Heathermas Drive, Severn, Maryland. Again, here on behalf of the NAACP, we do support this bill. I've communicated with both you and Councilwoman as well, Councilwoman Pickard, regarding people picking through somebody else's things. I've recorded one man who was picking up somebody's construction vest because all of his items had been placed on the sidewalk out in Glen Burnie, and it just was heartbreaking to see what had happened. And as you stated, people are at their lowest, oftentimes because they can't afford to get a U-Haul. They can't afford to get a car. They don't have a car. They're rent burdened. They cannot afford rent already. Most of the evictions are happening because they can't afford rent. And then it's, again, if we're talking about evictions in this county, African-American women experience evictions at a higher rate than any other category in this county. So, and that's a nationwide statistic as well. So this bill would help to establish dignity in a process that generally has already been fraught with undignified behavior, usury, usurious behavior, where you're charging people massive amounts of money for homes that haven't been upgraded in decades. So, just I'm glad to see that you've taken the state level advocacy here locally for us to be able to get something done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waddy. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 10125? Seeing no movement, the public hearing on Bill number 10125 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 10125.
Bill number 10125, an ordinance concerning general provisions, public works, landlord-tenant eviction.
Okay. There are two amendments. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment changes the notice of eviction to 14 days, removes the reclamation period, and prohibits the landlord from disposing of personal property for 24 hours.
Okay. So I know that every group I talk to will not be 100% happy with this amendment. That means that I probably got it right, because not everybody is going to be happy. Be 100% happy. This amendment removes the reclamation period and extends the notice of eviction to the full 14 days allowed by law. Tenants will be notified that after the 14th day, any belongings remaining will be considered abandoned. The amendment gives tenants an additional 4 days from this current draft of the bill to remove their belongings before eviction. It also includes a provision that landlords may not remove any items for the unit for 24 hours after the locks are changed. This is not a reclamation period, although a landlord could allow a tenant access if they so wished. Instead, it is a grace period to protect the tenants in case there was an error in the eviction. I've included this provision specifically because of an infamous case a few years ago in Glen Burnie. A woman received a call from a neighbor that all her belongings were being put on the street. By the time she arrived home, her belongings had all been pilfered by passersby, including her son's pet turtle. It turns out the eviction was done in error. But by then it was too late. A 24-hour process allows time for any mistaken evictions to be halted and spares the tenants that devastating consequence. So this amendment reduces the time from notice of eviction to clearing of a unit from 16 days to 14, up to 15, and reduces the days of non-payment from the reclamation period from 6 to 1. It increases the days for notice of eviction from 10 to 14. This is not the exact ask of tenant advocates nor of landlord advocates, but I believe it strikes a good balance between compassion and business. And so I ask for your support. I move the amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion on this amendment? All right. Madam Secretary, Mr. Volke.
Yeah, I have a question. Thanks. So can you just walk me through the process, like from the you can take it from the landlord point of view or the tenant point of view. I don't really mind, but I want to understand the process, soup to nuts, from the time that a landlord goes to court seeking a warrant of restitution to be able to come in and to retake a property. So what exactly happens under this bill?
Under this bill, I cannot speak to when they go to court to do it. I can only state when they receive the order for eviction,
right,
that it would be served, and the date of eviction would be 14 days after the notice is issued, once they receive it from the court. I would have to ask other advocates to say exactly how long that process is from the first time they miss rent until they receive the eviction notice.
Yeah, I'm less worried about that part. So once you get the ability to retake the property, right, and then you get to a position where the landlord is now providing notice that the eviction is going to take place on a date certain.
Right.
So then let's assume the eviction takes place on that date certain. So the landlord goes, and I'm assuming that they're going to change the locks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the person's belongings are going to remain in that unit. Is that right?
For any belongings that remain, so the tenant will have 14 days notice in which to find, come up with the money to make up their missed payments,
Sure,
find an alternative place to live, and to remove their belongings.
All right, so assume that they don't, and assume that 14-day period expires. And at the end of the expiration of that, the landlord now is able to change the locks, right?
Correct.
Okay. How long does the landlord need to retain the property that's inside the unit?
24 hours.
Okay.
It has to remain, and then after 24 hours, as the bill states, they may dispose of the property.
Gotcha.
So that means they can donate it, they can trash it, they can put it in storage, they can do what they will after that. It is considered abandoned at that point.
Okay, so then I guess what I'm trying to understand in section C, 1-13104, it says, for 6 days after the execution of the eviction, the evicted tenant has the right to access and remove the tenant's personal property remaining in the rental dwelling.
That is being removed with this amendment.
You're getting rid of that.
That
okay.
whole section
so
is
that's just
removed.
going to go to 24 hours.
Correct.
Got you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 has been adopted.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 2.
Amendment number 2. This amendment removes a duplicative requirement that Department of Social Services be contacted under certain circumstances.
Okay, and that's exactly what this bill does. With just this language is not needed in the bill and could be confusing, so we're just taking it out. Administration?
Support it. Urge the
Okay.
council to adopt.
All right, so I move to adopt. Do I have a second? All right, is there any discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 2.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Radvian?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 2 has been adopted.
Okay, bill number 10125 as amended will be heard on February 2nd, 2026. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Karpowitz, for coming out. ACDS was very helpful on this bill. I appreciate it. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 3625.
Resolution number 3625, resolution proposing an amendment to the Charter of Anne Arundel County to create an office known as the Office of Multicultural Affairs and an officer known as the Multicultural Affairs Officer as part of the executive branch.
Mr. Smith?
So this issue came up over the last couple of years as we've seen sort of how government is implemented and employed throughout the country. And I think part of this dialogue was as we looked at the various offices, and I went through the code book myself to see which offices should be within county code or in the county charter, and which ones are missing out of there. This was one of those functions that I've always felt probably should always follow the county, and no matter who is in leadership position here in Anne Arundel County, that we were performing this function. So let's take a little history lesson. This office was really originated behind one individual back in, I want to say at least the mid-2000s, somewhere around like 2007, 8, when John Leopold was in office, and he hired an individual by the name of Yavola Peters, who was doing some community outreach, and she had already previously worked for the county government, and she had did some outreach in various communities, specifically minority communities, and did some outstanding work. And I think she was a liaison between various communities and the county government to ensure some of their needs were being met. That individual ultimately was replaced by Sergio. Some of you all may know him. He served in that capacity as a multicultural affairs officer. And then subsequently after him, Allison Flores was another individual who had replaced him. In the last 3 or 4 years, that person became an office, but the functions originally started by being involved in helping with county sort of access and also just awareness. I always think of it almost like as an ombudsman when it comes to community groups that want to get involved and need a little extra assistance to figure out how do you make things happen in Anne Arundel County, and for the county to be responsive to these communities who traditionally have not had the bandwidth or the reach and access to participate in our functions in our county government. But this office, now it's an office, has traditionally been that. And so as I was going through the process of looking at our county code and our county charter over the last year, one of the comments that kept coming up was, we need to protect and put into our constitution, our charter, things that we think are of value and should continue in perpetuity no matter who is in those positions. Now, you will hear that there's really no threat to this office. Obviously, the last 3-4 county executives have continued to perform this function, which is a very true statement. I've worked with a number of different groups over the last few weeks, to include CAP. Some of the members here have received emails from them, and we've reached a consensus, and I'm thankful for that group for being an advocate for their causes. And as I reiterated, this effort and their efforts aren't necessarily the same thing, particularly with what we're trying to do with this. This office already exists in the budget book as well as code, and so the resolution simply aims to ask, should this be a chartered office in Anne Arundel County? And so that if the resolution passes, that question goes to the ballot for the voters to decide. There is no dollars that are associated with this charter at all. In fact, even if it passed the county, the election there in November, the voting, the council still, through the budget process, would be responsible for appropriating whatever resources that are aligned to this particular function, which already exists today. So we're not recreating anything. We're just baking into the county code a function that I think helps a lot of different organizations. Here recently, it has helped a lot more Spanish-leaning groups for a variety of different reasons. So I will say that so you all are aware that I'm conscious of that. But it's not always been designed specifically to address just their needs. There or Korean groups and African American or African groups that participate in this process, and other subgroups that will have leveraged this office to gain access to county government, either resources and or knowledge. And so I have always felt that that is a strong function to protect in perpetuity so that it doesn't go away. And you're right, this county executive and the previous one certainly had that function in use, but that doesn't mean in the future that it can't be stripped away. And so I thought it was important enough at least to be able to bring it up to this body and say, can we at least ask the question on the ballot to say whether or not it should? There is no resources allocated to this, and that's simply what I'm asking today. And my colleagues to help me bring a simple question to the ballot and let the voters choose, just as we've done with just about every other question of importance that we think needs to be on baked into our county charter. And so that's all this does, and I would ask for their support for this resolution. So thank you.
Administration.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney. Obviously, we're very supportive of the work that this office does, and so we're comfortable with the voters having a say. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. As a reminder, we held the public hearing open from its first hearing on December 1st, 2026. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 29 pieces, which were shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Salvador Vega, Pablo Blanc, Rocio Smith, and Ismenia Bolivar. And if there's anyone else who wishes to speak, you may come up at this time as well. Mr. Vega, you may go ahead.
Salvador Vega, Glen Burnie, Maryland. I'm an owner of Fox Auto Services. I'm a collision center in Glen Burnie. I come in as a business leader. I've been a business leader for the community for the past 6 years. Through that, I've been open. My industry, my automotive industry, has been hard to be able to find good work. So due to that factor, I opened an apprenticeship program within my building. By doing so, I gained access to the actual educational portion of our county, and now I'm actually doing forums in different school systems to be able to bring the trades forth. By doing so for the last 4 years, I've actually realized that the population of our county is growing in multiple sublevels. It could be the Spanish-speaking portion as well, but I've seen other different countries from all over the world coming in to choose to bring their children to actually our county and choose our county schools to be able to do so. By now, my actual shop has become an academy for the trades in Glen Burnie. Now I'm a centralized place where these people can come and ask for help. What I'm asking for is to see if we can have a centralized place where people from all their different cultures and different places of the world can come and ask for help. There's a lot of things that they might not know because they don't feel comfortable or understood. So based on what I'm coming to say is that I will definitely agree with this happening, more so for the fact that if we can choose, I think we can have a place where we can feel understood and actually go ask for help. And then we can get the answers we need with resources that already exist. Our county is amazing. It has a lot of resources, like my shop. It's a resource. Other businesses are resources. My academy, my mentorship is as well. They could come and ask for help if they knew that we exist. Through this, we might be able to tell them we do. Thank you.
Mr. Plank.
Good evening. Thank you so much, County Council members. My name is Pablo Blanc. I live in Rockville, Maryland. And I am here representing CASA, and we are in strong support of the Resolution 3625 to amend the county charter by creating and regulating the Office of Multicultural Affairs. We are confident this office will help to advance the priorities of our organization and those that we represent, mostly immigrants from Latin American countries, Caribbean, and African countries as well. If the office is created, the county executive will have the opportunity and the tools to better and strongly support those county residents with different and rich cultural threads to include them in the political, economic, and social life of the county. This will also represent a great opportunity to promote access to county services and programs for those residents. CASA membership has been growing consistently in this county, and the needs of those individuals has been growing as well. CASA is a non-profit organization that has over 150,000 members who receive a variety of services such as ESOL classes, citizenship preparation, free tax preparation, financial education, health navigation and education, legal advice on immigration, housing and employment issues, workforce development, and day labor opportunities. As service providers, we encounter every day dozens of immigrants who experience different types of needs and do not know where to go for help. The Office of Multicultural Affairs will play a great role in educating the county's diverse population, including the immigrant population, about available services and creating coalitions and articulating among different nonprofits and the business community to expand and multiply those services. The office will also help for those services to be more available for immigrants, promoting affordable and accessible services in the multiple language county residents speak. The state of Maryland, we are in strong support of this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Blank. Ms. Smith, Rocio Smith? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Rocio Ramirez Smith. I am the Hispanic liaison for the City of Annapolis. In that capacity, my address is 160 Duke of Gloucester, City Hall. I am here in support of Resolution 3625, and I would like to begin by recognizing and deeply thanking the leadership and dedication of Alison Flores, who has served as the director of the Office of Multicultural Services. Her work has made a real impact in the community, not only in the Hispanic community. Through her, we have learned so much more about other communities in this county as well, and their needs. Her work has made a real difference in everything that we do. I have the great appreciation and respect of how she has represented that office, and it has been a pleasure to serve our community along with her. And Arundel County has administrations that strongly support our communities, and we hope that this support remains strong and exemplary for other counties. To continue showing this support, it is also clear that there is the need to create permanent foundations to ensure that these services continue to exist, independently of political or administrative changes. It is also necessary to build solid structures that protect these services in the long term, and it is essential that the future county authorities understand the importance of this, the value of these needs in the community, and how needed is a stable and sustainable way for them. Alison genuinely represents our community, not only in her position that she has, she also does it on the streets, being in the community with us. She doesn't plan things just from her office. She has taken this office to the level of being present with the community, going to events, volunteering even her own time to the causes that are important to us. And that's what these offices represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Higgins.
Thank you. Paul Higgins, Pasadena, Maryland. As I sat and listened to the history class and the value of the position by past administrations, I'm not here to testify against it. I'm here to ask a question. If this goes on the charter and it gets voted down, does this handcuff future administrations from bringing in a position of this nature?
No.
Okay. All right. And that's where my concern was. I didn't want to handcuff and hurt a program that, if it's working, I didn't want to see that lose that opportunity. So thank you.
Mr. Waddy.
My name is Stephen Waddy. I'm here on behalf of the NAACP. I appreciate you, Councilman Smith, for meeting with us and various other groups at the same time. This has been a tough conversation for the NAACP, based on the fact that we see this office coming from similar offices that stem from an immigrant rights perspective, and we're definitely not against immigrants at all. And we support individuals who would rather lend a hand as opposed to pull up the ladder, which is what we see a lot of people doing once they get their citizenship and become settler colonialists here in America. But the issue that we're dealing with is the proximity to whiteness and the fact that many of our Black American, many of my members see how anti-Black the immigrant community is, whether no matter what continent they might be coming from, even within the African continent, there's an anti-Blackness that exists in the first few generations. And so we are placing on the charter a office that would engage in integrating people into this place. And we live in a white supremacist culture, and as witnessed by everything going on in this world. And so that's our concern. And it's not necessarily something that stems from the Office of Multicultural Affairs. The Office of Multicultural Affairs is something that's needed. And clearly we can't go off of norms for what needs to be done. It needs to be secured, just as you mentioned, because norms are broken so constantly by white supremacists. They'll lie to your face, and do whatever they want to do behind your back. So,
thank you, Mr. Waddy. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on resolution number 3625? Okay, the public hearing on resolution number 3625 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 3625.
Resolution number 3625, resolution proposing an amendment to the Charter of Anne Arundel County to create an office known as the Office of Multicultural Affairs and an officer known as the Multicultural Affairs Officer as part of the executive branch.
Okay, there is one amendment. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment amends the duties of the Office of Multicultural Affairs.
Mr. Smith?
As I've alluded to previously, it's important to make sure that this office is as apolitical as possible. In the current code right now, it has sort of some verbiage in there that really kind of lends itself to appearing to be a political office, but it really should be a community resource, almost similar to how the Veterans Affairs Office serves veterans. This Multicultural Affairs Office and officer who's in there now, again, that's on the books, is engaged with not just the Hispanic community, as I mentioned before. There are other communities that office has been engaged with. They've executed grants out of that office that have impacted communities across the spectrum. And so the function, the way government works, this is how we've been able to leverage our information sharing and things of that nature through this office to those various community subgroups. And so I've heard all the concerns from the various community groups that I have met with, and I assure them that the intent is not to push their concerns aside, but the government function of taking care of its citizens, we still have to perform, and we have to do it. So this amendment essentially takes that political sort of verbiage that's in there and turns it into community engagement, which is what they really should be focused on with respect to these various subgroups. And so that's why I thought it was important to bring that forward. I did reach out to a number of groups about that verbiage, and they were okay with it. But I thought it was important to also change the current language that applies to that and ensures that they're focused on community engagement and not politics to some degree. And so motion to adopt.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Rodvian, second.
Okay. Administration?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We support this amendment. I think it much better reflects the work of the office.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 has been adopted.
Please note that resolutions can be amended and voted on in the same evening. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Volke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This may be a question for someone from the Office of Law, but I see you're up there all by yourself, Mr. Hunt. So, we'll see what you can do as a former member of the Office of Law. All right. So the location of this in the charter, I have some questions about. Specifically, this new Office of Multicultural Affairs is I don't want to say new, because it is a creature currently of executive order and/or, I don't think it's in the code, is it? Yeah, it's in the budget, but is it? My question is this: it's under 506, which is the executive branch. It's not under Section 6, which is where we house generally concepts similar to what my colleague was mentioning with the Veterans Affairs Commission. That's where the Human Relations Commission is. It's where the Board of Appeals is. It's where you've got the Pension Oversight Commission, the Spending Affordability Commission. So a lot of these commissions, or these not offices, but these, they've been generally created by executive order, and then they have sort of lived on beyond one administration, becoming sort of a longevity or a legacy type office. I guess my question is, why are we housing this under the executive branch as opposed to as a commission? This may be a law question, it may be a sponsor question. I don't think it's an admin question, but.
So I can weigh in on that if I may. Part of the reason I think it's important that it's similar to how we have constituent services. The county executive needs to be very real-time responsive to the needs of those groups that reach out. Most of the time, the commissions don't have statute, like we don't issue grants necessarily through a PAB or the Spending Affordability Committee, or even here recently, I think the Veterans Commission we may have, but traditionally the commission have been a standalone entity that has been neutral in how they have been trying to operate from the county's executive's office standpoint. We want them to have that a little distance to give us their real feedback. It's similar to how we do with the spending affordability. They do their assessments, and then they come to us and say, or to the county exec and to us and say, this is what it is. This is a hands-on office that is constantly engaged with various communities throughout the year, and having that relationship and that proximity to the county exec, I think, which it is today. Again, this isn't a new office. It exists today. It's being executed today, and it has been for a number of years. So having it in a charter that's still aligned to that same framework allows the county executive to continue to operate in that same manner, so that they have that real reach back capability to assist those groups as they see fit.
Okay, but so following up on that, the offices under 506 of the charter that are currently under the direction and control of the CAO, Office of Finance, that's a very large department. Office of Budget, not as large, but still an important office. Office of Personnel, very large department. Emergency Management, pretty large department. Central Services, huge department. Office of Law, pretty big. Planning and Zoning, pretty big. Information Services, good size. Office of Criminal Justice and Corrections, pretty good size. Office of Detention Facilities, very large. My point in saying that is, by housing this in this same universe of offices, you're effectively creating a new office in the county executive's sort of purview, and you're also giving us a sense of the scope of the office. So I hear you when you say currently there's no funding that's attached to this, but even like the Human Relations Commission, which came up a few years ago, where that went from something that had been created by multiple county executives, Republican and Democrat alike, through executive order. It was then put into the code, and then from there it was put into the charter, and that's now come with funding obligations, expansion of scope in terms of the things that they're looking into and investigating. So the reason I'm mentioning this is, this isn't like we're talking about a commission, like something that's going to meet voluntarily, or you're creating a new office that is going to be in the charter, that is going to be something that has, as you've already noted, significant budgetary consequences currently and could only grow. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is, where is this going to go, this office? Like, what do you envision this being? Because I don't want to vote to put something in the charter when I don't know where it's going.
No, totally. So the reason I even proposed this legislation is, I have learned from the Supreme Court here recently that if it's not in the Constitution, it can go away tomorrow. And there are some things like public safety, like Office of Finance, and all these other functions that county government are responsible for, that should be baked into our Constitution, for lack of a better word. It is not my desire to expand this outside of the scope that has currently been leveraged. I just think how they operate is certainly based off who the leader is in that office. But I think you'll see a continuation of their efforts to work in the same communities that they've always been working on, and to not even attempt to grow it. Even if there was an ask to grow it, the county council would have to participate in that process if that request ever came to a reality through the budget process. So any resources, future resources that could even be assigned to them, you would have a say in that. Just like 100% would have a say in that. And I'm sure you would leverage that say in a heartbeat if you thought this thing was growing to a scope that you thought was inappropriate. And so that is never being taken away from you in this capacity. We're just asking for the function itself to be baked into our charter, our constitution, to make sure it doesn't go away no matter who the CE is. That was my main concern as we looked at what's happening nationwide and at the federal level. There are some things I just think are important enough that we should do it in perpetuity.
Okay, so a couple of things in
Yes, sir.
response. So you and I both participate in the budget every year, but that doesn't mean our votes are equal on that, because being in the minority, it's been my experience that we've had multiple budgets where I've proposed certain things and said, I think the county's either growing overall too quickly,
Yes, sir.
or a particular department or a particular program is growing too quickly, and it's a 4-3 party line vote, and that winds up continuing to go. The distinction with this, just for the benefit of people watching, is this requires 5 votes for this to go on to the charter.
Yes,
it
to be
requires-
asked the question, yes.
Correct. To even put this onto the charter, it requires you to bring
Yes, sir.
one of the 3 Republican members on board to do this. So that's why, to me, to the extent that there's an ability to exercise control, it's here, because I don't see that control
So-
in the budget that maybe others on the council see.
But isn't that the case now, though, when the budget process,
Oh,
if he wanted to add an additional position when the Office of or any office, there's a 4-3 vote now, you would still have that same process mechanism to control whether or not the funding goes there. I don't disagree that, because I was in the minority before, so I certainly know what it feels like to be in the 3 or 4. My sort of answer to your question, though, is the process is what it is. I can't change who is elected in what councilmatic seats. All I'm asking is, can we preserve this function as a part of county government so that it continues to be exercised no matter who wins these seats? And just as easily, it is a 4-3 today, and in the next term or the year after that or whatever, it could go back the other way, and then you're in the majority again. And so I don't think that should be a concern of whether or not can we ask the voters of should this be a question on the ballot. That's what I'm simply asking.
Understood. I think the concern for me is if it becomes a charter office,
Yes, sir.
and if it becomes part of the Anne Arundel County charter per se, I don't know what that's going to look like in terms of cost. I don't know what the next county executive, it's not going to be this one because it'll be this fall where this
The
goes
question
on,
is
so
on
it'll
the
have to
ballot,
be the
yeah.
next one. How that county executive will envision this comparatively to these other offices, which are all pretty large offices, personnel, budget, finance, et cetera. All of these have, at a minimum, 8 to 10 people
That's true.
staffing them, right? I mean, even on the budget office side, which is smaller. So in looking at that, does that mean that the next county executive, whoever that is, looks at this and says, well, we need to really staff this office up, and then it comes in front of the council, and then the council vote? I don't know that that's what you intend.
But that can happen now, even without it being a charter government.
Understood. But it puts it in a different level by putting it here, right? It certainly puts it in a place where now you say, okay, well, this might be on par with some of these other offices, whereas what it's historically been is more on par with like a Human Relations Commission or a Veterans Affairs or Spending Affordability or Pension Oversight, something like that. So that's why where it's been chosen to place it in the charter.
Is there a different is there a preference in the location that you?
I'd rather see it in 6. I mean, to me, it makes more sense to put it in section 6, where you're bringing it in and you're making it a commission, as opposed to necessarily like this standalone office that sits under the county executive and is housed there on par with budget, finance, etc. But
So-
I don't know that that's your intent.
No, because the commissions don't operate like an office does. The office actually has a meaning, like words have meaning in this.
Yeah, I got you.
And so if it's a commission, it's not going to be leveraged or utilized in the same manner that it is today.
So then to understand this, there is, from your point of view, a desire to ensure that there is at least sort of a minimum level of funding that continues to flow to this office. So when we say this is a budget neutral or revenue neutral,
It is.
Not
It is.
necessarily,
Why is
because
that?
by elevating it, you're putting it in a position where you're saying, well, we intend this to be ongoing static funding.
Correct,
I got you.
the function, but that doesn't, the funding won't change unless you vote to change the funding.
No, unless the council votes to change.
Correct, the council,
Correct.
yes.
Correct. All right, I think we may see this a little differently, but I
Yeah.
understand where you're coming from. Thank you.
Yeah, no, appreciate you.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oh, so I have a lot of thoughts. So I tend to agree with Mr. Volke in that this does conjure up very similar discussion that we had on the Human Relations Council. I supported that charter amendment, and then the very next budget, there was a huge increase in funding. I wish that there was a way to put it in the charter and have flat funding for, you know, a period of time, but that's obviously not how it works. Mr. Waddy, I think, has left the building, but he actually brought up a concern that I wasn't even thinking about. Has there been a larger, I don't want to say work group because I feel like we throw that term around a lot, an inclusive discussion on exactly the direction of this body so that it's serving all equally? He brought up a very good question.
Could you rephrase the concern or question that?
It appeared or sounded like there's a group of residents in Anne Arundel County who may feel like they're being pushed aside for another group, and I certainly don't want to unintentionally do that.
I've had conversations with that group specifically over the last 2 weeks, and we have come to a consensus on a pathway forward for them. They had already sent out the email prior to us having the latest meeting, and so you got maybe hearing from him, and you saw some emails in reference to that. But I've talked to Ashan Powell, and you can probably call her after this meeting, and we had a very sort of heartfelt and in-depth communication on where do we go next for that specific community. So I think that concern has been addressed with their group, and I am committed to helping them seek some of the at least information that they're looking for, so that they can continue to move forward in their sort of passion and focus that they're zeroed in on.
I appreciate that. I think that's not the feel that I got from the testimony, understanding we're not in a, an interactive session here with public testimony.
Yeah, I think Mr. Waddy just wanted to make sure he conveyed some of those members, like how and why they felt that way. Again, the function of the office is it doesn't matter. I think here recently you've seen a little bit heavier influence on the direction they've been going for obvious reasons. And so that's why the office has been focused to assist some of those citizens who have been impacted here, certainly by the federal level in this county. And so, but that traditionally is not what the office is to help all of those subgroups sort of be involved and to gather information and to help them identify resources or information that could aid in their community taking it to the next level. And so that's why I say it's almost like an ombudsman office where they direct folks to the right resources. But the office also has, if you look at the grants, there's a number of grants that have been filtered through that particular office that have helped a variety of different subgroups here in Anne Arundel County, not just the Hispanic Coalition. And so I hear your concerns. I certainly heard Mr. Waddy's, with the NAACP, as well as CAP, who had sent the emails that you were referencing, and we had agreed to find a path to assist them. And so I think that at least concern has been addressed.
I appreciate that. I'm not going to ask any more questions. I think, I have no issue with the Human Relations Commission or the Multicultural Affairs Office. I do have concerns with the charter amendment because of the budgetary history with when we, put a commission or group in the charter. Have you given any thought to the approach that if a future administration were to remove this office the county council can take action at that point, that we can do joint resolutions, whether it be this council or, well, it's going to be a different council makeup, or then initiate a charter amendment.
I think so there are a lot of unknown variables that are with that. What we do know is that today, that office operates normally. There hasn't been any concerns from any of the council members over the last couple of years in which they've been operating. We've appropriated several budgets over the years that paid for the staff there. So there's really been no concern with their funding. And I don't anticipate a future county executive, changing sort of significantly the sort of temperature of that office and what they're focused on. But the importance of what they do is valuable to some of these organizations and groups. And without them, and that's why even John Leopold thought it was important to bring on Yvola Peters to do some outreach in communities that he couldn't necessarily go into and have a genuine sort of relationship with those people where she could. And so he thought it was valuable. Steve Shue thought it was valuable. Laura Newman thought it was valuable. And now even Stuart Pibbin has continued with that trend. And so since no one has had any issues, the go is with this function, why not continue to reinforce that we're going to continue to help these communities as they encounter issues that prevent them from being successful and thriving here in Anne Arundel County. And so right now it's like one position in there or one person in there. So it's not like some massive budget sort of issue, because we would have brought it up already during last May's budget cycle. And so I would just ask you all the process is what it is. And I know this is a particular concern that I don't know whether, I don't think that you should be as concerned as you are, because it's already proven over the last 15 years that it's not done something inappropriate. They've channeled their energy towards a particular problem set right now, but that's what that office is for, to help solve problems for our constituents. And so I would just ask that I know you all think of the worst case scenario, but I think it's unlikely in this case for that particular office. Probably more likely for other issues that are very concerned with you that would bring real problems to the communities that you are invested in. I don't think this is one of those offices that you should be concerned about, me personally. But I hear your concern, and I definitely want to help you answer any questions that help alleviate some of those concerns.
I appreciate that. Madam Chair, I just would like to end with, I think we both agree that office is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you. I actually think Ms. Fiedler just finished her remarks with a thought that I had. So I'll just add a tiny bit on it, because I know we probably need to move on. But, in our 250 almost year history of this country, there's not a single day in the length of the history of this country where an Office of Multicultural Affairs wouldn't have been helpful in terms of resolving lots of different issues. The focus may change over time, but I don't see that going anywhere. We're a very multicultural nation, a very multicultural county, and it's even hard to imagine how that could possibly change. Like how could we ever be something different? We are a very diverse and multicultural community, and personally, that's one of the things I love about it. And I think this office will always have relevance.
All right. Any other comments? Okay. We already did amendment number 1. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on resolution number 3625 as amended.
Ms. Ledbetter.
I believe the officer has relevance. I have a problem with the growth of government. Nay.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler.
Abstain.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
4 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, and 1 abstain. Resolution 3625 has failed.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 125.
Bill number 125, an ordinance concerning purchasing, procurement, project labor agreements.
Mr. Smith, this is your bill.
All right. I think the majority of the audience is certainly ready to get to this bill. I have spent the last few months, I think, trying to come up with sort of the right words to describe how we got to this point and what's taking place this evening. And so first and foremost, for all those advocates who are here talking about this, both for and against, I do appreciate you being involved and your commitment to this process, because that's how democracy is created. That's how we become the best version of ourselves, when we bring forth concerns and issues to the forefront. And so the easy way, quite frankly, would have been for me to not even bring this bill to the forefront at all. It certainly would have saved a lot of headaches in my household. But however, some things are worth having the courage, I think, to bring forward, and this is one of them. So Anne Arundel County has never really taken a stance on where it sees itself going, particularly when it comes to project labor agreements and our union members in general. And I think it's important that we bring that into focus. And so I always believe in bringing these difficult conversations to the forefront, no matter how challenging they may be. Too often, those in office and those in elected office, we say one thing to one group, and we go to another group, and we say another thing to another group. And I have never really ever wanted to be that type of county council member, and so or elected person. And so I thought it was important to have this discussion publicly. To our merit personnel, I hear you. You have certainly made your stance known, and we've had communication over the last few weeks, certainly, about this bill and the impacts it has in your community that you brought to me. And so I want you to know that I definitely hear you in that process. And I'm thanking you all for coming here today, because you could have been anywhere, but you all showed up here tonight to participate in this process. And I don't minimize anything that you're doing or any of your voices, because I wanted to hear them. But this journey we are on today is to answer the mail for others who also have concerns about where we go and where we stand on these types of issues, particularly with our trades and the union groups that I've been communicating with probably for a number of years, but certainly here recently within the last year. And I thought it was important when I've reached out and communicated with several of those stakeholders who had asked, where do we go from here? If you don't know, there's a history to Anne Arundel County. In 2010, in 2012, we voted in a binding arbitration so that when our county makes a commitment to a particular group, we keep that commitment. And then in 2020, we obviously removed the words, the prohibition on PLAs within Anne Arundel County government from our county charter. But we took no other meaningful steps to address and/or ask, where should we go? What is the next logical step when it comes to these trades who have asked us and who have certainly been engaged with this county for a number of years to see where that is. And so I thought it was important to bring that forward. I said that I would bring it forward and we would have this challenging conversation, and I think it's important to have. And so today there's been this flurry of back and forth on what this bill should look like. And so I've tried my best to find the most appropriate pathway forward, certainly to continue it. I didn't want to see it perish because I think it was worth having some of those more in-depth personal conversations when it came to it. And that being said, I really did want to hear from both of those groups, because you all need your voice to be heard, which is why I wanted to have this conversation today about this bill and the importance of the trades and the values that they bring to our community, on both sides of the aisle, quite frankly. And that's why I thought it was important to bring this resolution forward. It did have some language in there that concerned some groups, but it was certainly a starting point for me because some of the folks, the research that I did with various other jurisdictions, I thought it was necessary to at least start with where they were, quite frankly. Some of the provisions were, whether it's the federal government level and their policy that they recently put in place, or other jurisdictions like Prince George's County. But I thought it was important to bring that conversation forward. So that being said, I will shut up because I know that there is a ton of folks that want to have their voices heard on this, and I want everyone on this council to hear it, and I want the administration to hear it, and then where we go after that, we'll proceed after that. So
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, Susan Harold, our central services officer, and Catrice Parsons, our purchasing agent from the Office of Central Services, Beth O'Connell, our chief engineer from the Department of Public Works, and Chris Trumbauer, our budget officer. As we discussed at the work session, the administration is in support of project labor agreements. We repealed the prohibition on them early on in the administration. There are some items in the bill, if it is to move forward, that we think need to be addressed. We discussed those at the work session. Happy to answer any questions, but I know there are a lot of people waiting to testify.
Is there any discussion before we open the public hearing? All right, let these people come out to speak. We will now open the public hearing on bill number 125. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair, we received 21 pieces which are shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. And let me reiterate that this is a business meeting, so there's no clapping, there's no booing, there's no hissing. So if you are in support of what someone's saying, you may stand up to show your support. And I thank you for following that decorum here in the chambers. So I will call our first 6 people that signed up ahead of time: Andrew Griffin, Joe McLaughlin, Roxy Meha, Greg Ackerman, Joe Parker, and Cody McFleet. And we'll just start at this end. Go ahead.
John McLaughlin, 1082 Woodlawn Avenue, Pasadena, Maryland. Good evening, Chair Hummer and members of the County Council. My name is John McLaughlin. I'm the current president of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 24. I also serve on the Anne Arundel County Workforce Development Board. On behalf of the 3,000 men and women of IBEW Local 24, we are excited that a bill establishing use of project labor agreements in Anne Arundel County has been introduced. PLAs do an exceptional job of creating training opportunities for local residents, affording them the opportunity to purchase houses in Anne Arundel County. That's because PLAs create a link between a construction project and established registered apprenticeship programs. This does 2 things: creates a pathway to middle-class careers for local residents and ensures projects are built right the first time and safely by highly skilled workers. I'm especially proud of Local 24's apprenticeship program sponsored by IBEW Local 24 and the Maryland chapter of the National Electrical Contractors Association. Our program has trained more than 3,000 apprentices to date. A PLA will expand the pipeline of union construction projects, and we can then turn and expand our training program to include more apprentices, providing more opportunities to more people. In time, those apprentices will become journey workers. Those are the building blocks we need to transform lives. I know this because I'm a graduate of the IBEW Local 24 apprenticeship program. It has transformed my life and afforded me the ability to own a home here in Anne Arundel County. It has been 6 years since Anne Arundel County repealed its ban on PLAs. It's time to start moving forward. Toward that goal, I urge you to pass Bill 125. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Andrew Griffin. I am here on behalf of the Associated Utility Contractors of Maryland and the Utility Contractors Association of Anne Arundel County. I also happen to be a resident of Annapolis, Maryland. We are here in opposition to the bill before you. As is typical, I have my notes, and I'm going to go off script. I will just say a statement was made when the bill was introduced that this is to start a conversation about where Anne Arundel County stands on union labor. I would also say this is a policy that makes a stance on where Anne Arundel County is on people who started a business in the county, who are headquartered in the county, are not affiliated with a union, who hire county residents who do work just as safely and just as well as the folks in a union do. So I would just submit that. You'll hear from folks who own those businesses as what this policy will do or could do to them. I'll talk about the bill as it is introduced. The bill introduces a mandate, but it also says that the county could, as it see fits, introduce a PLA. Creates a lot of confusion for folks who bid on projects. Most concerning, and I know you all have read the fiscal note, the county said that they simply can't quantify the cost of implementing the policy in the bill, but they also don't know what the cost would be to the capital projects, the impact that you guys have over the next 5-10 years. You all crunch the numbers on the budget. You know how expensive these capital projects are. Certainly the folks sitting behind me know that the inflation on materials and labor have continued to cost delivering these projects to go up. And so, as the state continues to shift costs to locals, I would just submit to you all to adopt a policy like this with one session, one work session, a couple phone calls. And I want to say you all have been great. I've met with every member of the council. Every single one of you has taken a meeting. It's been fantastic. But to do this in such a short period of time, it's going to take significant analysis to make a change in this measure. Thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Hummer and members of the council, for giving me the opportunity to testify in support of Bill 100-25. My name is Roxy Mejia. I'm the political director of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 51, and also a 24-year member of the union with women in the trades. When we started, it was small. So you can imagine, as you see what I look like, I have seen in every way, shape, or form the exploitation of the construction workers that look like me in every industry. So I am here to say that, we're very proud of our training facilities and what we do to provide for all people of all walks of life. Our training center is one of it's located here at Parkway Drive, Hanover, Maryland, and we were very proud to be part of the signing ceremony for the Prevailing Wage Bill into law, which also helped hinder any misclassification and any discrimination when it comes to wages. So that was a great moment. We look forward, as someone mentioned, that we're very proud that the repeal of the PLA ban has been lifted, and it's finally time, after so many years, to start talking about how we're going to make sure that we close that gap of discrimination of people that look like me, whether they're Spanish, they're women, minority, underrepresented folks. I have folks that have dealt with it many times, people that do not have the opportunities to have apprenticeships or to even be put on the work job. And that's something that you got to look. You're right. There is sometimes the material is expensive, but paying the right wages should not be taken advantage just to make sure that other folks make a gain. The other thing that I can say is that we look forward for passing a PLA law by now. PLAs work many benefits. One of the benefits that are more important to me are, like I said, you provide more opportunity to women of color. Also in the construction industry, this opens the opportunity for women like me to actually be breadwinners and have the opportunity. I look forward to working with everybody here to make sure that we expand and become a more minority.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you, Chair Hummer and members of the County Council. Thanks for the opportunity to testify. My name is Greg Ackerman. I'm the president of the Baltimore DC Metro Building Trades. We represent all of the construction trade unions in the region. Around 30,000 workers and around 5,000 of our members live here in Anne Arundel County. You're going to hear a lot from both sides, obviously, today. And I want to take a minute to kind of preempt and talk through some of the myths about project labor agreements that we hear a lot. First things first, I'll just address this idea that 90% of the construction industry in Maryland and here locally is non-union. Some of those statistics are misleading because they consider administrative staff and other non-construction staff as non-union as they typically are. And so in reality, when you take out residential, when you take out a lot of industries that are traditionally non-union in construction, those numbers are a lot closer to 50-50 in this region. And obviously, when you take into consideration the number of workers that want to be union, and across the board, those numbers are a lot higher. I also want to address this idea that project labor agreements preclude non-union companies from bidding. It is a necessity of a project labor agreement that they do not preclude any non-union company from bidding. And in fact, I'm proud to have administered dozens of project labor agreements, which we've also negotiated that include heavy participation from non-union companies. I'm always coming out here to Anne Arundel County to meet with new non-union companies that are looking for business opportunities in jurisdictions where they are doing PLAs. And I look forward to continuing that type of business development and outreach here, hopefully if we pass this legislation. And to that effect, all of the project labor agreements that we have done in this region, frankly, have been done in many jurisdictions where there are a lot stronger, local business requirements or minority business requirements or women-owned business requirements. And that's obviously nothing against this county, but, we have to oftentimes deal with, was that my time?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Ackerman. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Joe Parker, and I've been in mechanical construction business for 30 years. My family has been in Local 602 since the 1950s. I'm currently the owner of Heritage Mechanical, who makes its home right here in Anne Arundel County. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of Anne Arundel County instituting PLAs. PLAs have many benefits, some obvious, some less tangible. The obvious benefit of PLAs is that it ensures the county that well-trained, licensed tradespeople are erecting buildings that our citizens need to stand the test of time. Without a PLA in place, the county makes itself vulnerable to open shop business entities who more often than not employ less qualified, unlicensed tradespeople who are 1099 to subcontractors. When Heritage Mechanical wins a project, the men and women performing the work are all licensed plumbers and steam fitters. They are either engaged in their apprenticeship or they have finished their 5-year apprenticeship and are licensed journeymen. The building trade unions have established through collective bargaining ratios of journeymen to apprentices that ensure all of the work that is installed is done so under the watchful eye of a licensed journeyman. In the mechanical space, open shops have resorted to piecemeal 1099 arrangements where the trade person is paid strictly by the footage of pipe they install or the number of plumbing fixtures they hang as a subcontractor. This method of labor procurement is rife with corruption and takes advantage of the worker. The county will find itself with bathrooms all piped differently, HVAC systems whose installation does not match the one next to it, and overall system installations that are rushed and oftentimes do not meet the contract standards. Then comes the labor brokers, which have popped up all over the construction industry. This method of a labor procurement involves one boss man who has a number of installers, we will call them, at his disposal, most of which are illegal aliens, which the labor broker takes advantage of. The open shops pay the labor broker an hourly rate per body supplied, and in doing so relieve themselves of the responsibility of paying employee benefits, taxes, and overhead. The labor brokers set up fly-by-night LLCs, underpay their installers, and pocket the difference, knowing they are unlikely to be caught, and that the installer is scared to report this abuse because of their marginalized status.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Cody Van Fleet. I've been a resident of Anne Arundel County for more than 10 years now, and I'm also the operations manager and part of the ownership team at American Contracting and Environmental Services, otherwise known as ACE. I'm here tonight to respectfully but clearly ask the council to deny Bill 100-25, not amend it. ACE has been performing public construction work in Anne Arundel County for over 20 years. In that time, we've completed over $60 million in county projects that are solely focused on critical water and wastewater infrastructure that protects public health and serves county residents every day. These are taxpayer-funded projects that have been and continue to be delivered safely, competitively, and successfully under the current system. Bill 100-25 would put ACE's ability to continue that work at serious risk. This bill opens the door to project labor agreements that fundamentally change who can realistically compete for county work. While it may be described as optional or case by case, in practice it creates uncertainty and disqualifies it discourages qualified contractors from bidding at all. Reduced competition almost always leads to higher costs, fewer bidders, and less value for taxpayers. Just as importantly, this bill does not expand the workforce. It picks winners and losers based on labor affiliation rather than performance, safety record, or experience. Many local contractors, including firms like ACE, that have a proven track record in this county would be placed at disadvantage or excluded entirely. As a county resident, I want my tax dollars spent efficiently. As a contractor, I want fair, open, and competitive bidding environments. Bill 100-25 undermines both. Anne Arundel County already has the tools it needs to promote safety, quality, and local participation without inserting restrictive labor mandates into the procurement process. This bill is unnecessary, risky, and harmful to the local construction market. For those reasons, I respectfully urge the council to deny Bill 100-25 outright. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Fleet. All right, our next batch, Barrett Tucker, Todd Taylor, Lynn Stith Bennett, Kenneth Wade, Michael Mason, and Jeff Ferguson. No, just sit down. Yes. It does not matter what order. So, get everybody up that we have. And I have one, Harry Holmes Jr. If he is here, he can come on up. All right, go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Barrett Tucker. I'm with Alan Myers. We are 86 years old, 2,600 employees, non-union, and we have 600 employees in Maryland and 68 employees in Anne Arundel County. Ms. Ledbetter, thank you for your prayer tonight. We all need fairness. Just picture this for a second. All of you own construction businesses, okay? You all own non-union construction companies or not hiring residents, hiring people in the county. And Mr. Smith is a union company that hires people in the county and bids on public work. When a project labor agreement comes out, the rest of you can't bid on it. Now, I heard a gentleman say that, you know, well, we can just go over and sign up with the unions. Yeah, that's true. But what we're doing as a non-union company, we're paying two benefits. We're paying benefits with health care, pension, 401ks, the whole 9 yards already to a non-union employee. And when you go over to a union job, you have to pay that benefit twice. But the employee that you're paying for the union benefits, the employee doesn't get the benefit on a non-union company. It goes into their coffers. It doesn't go to the employee. So what's the sense of that? So now you're paying two benefits as a non-union company working on a union job. Doesn't make any sense. So I'm asking this council to vote no on this bill because it's open and fair competition that has made this county great, and there's no reason to be apolitical when it comes to county taxpayer money. Period. End of story. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Jeff Ferguson, Harwood, Maryland. Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the County Council. As I stated, I'm Jeff Ferguson, President of Ferguson Trenching Company, and I'm here to oppose Bill 100-25. Ferguson Trenching Company is a member of Associated Builders and Contractors and the Utility Contractors Association, both who are represented here tonight. But more importantly, Ferguson Trenching is a second-generation family-owned business that was established and based in Anne Arundel County, currently employing approximately 200. Outside of the testimony I've already provided, I wanted to bring up a few other points regarding this bill. According to this bill, the use of a PLA will promote labor management stability, ensure compliance with laws and regulations governing the workplace safety and health. Is the sponsor implying that open shop contractors do not train or have safety programs? This could not be farther from the truth. Ferguson Trenching has a robust safety program and a dedicated staff and a training center for our employees, all of which we are very proud of. The bill also states it would promote local workforce participation. In 2021, the council passed a prevailing wage bill with a local hiring requirement. Has anyone looked back to see how effective that has been? Furthermore, this bill discourages companies like mine who do and have hired local workforce from bidding or participating on county projects. All the problems this bill states it will solve. In the work session, the administration nor the sponsor could identify one county project that has not been completed or was delayed or had a problem with any of these issues. Finally, the budget office pointed out 4 areas this could increase costs. In closing, at the end of the day, if the proposed legislation does not benefit the county, does not benefit the citizens of the county, and does not benefit approximately 90% of the workforce in the county, it's a council responsibility to vote it down.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair Hummer and County Council. For the record, Mike Mason from Providence Strategies here on behalf of American Council of Engineering Companies, Maryland chapter. I'm respectfully here in opposition to Bill 100-25. The bill's really, as I see it, is kind of unnecessary. We made the moves. Members of this council took the courage to repeal the ban on PLAs. The county executive currently, as it states, can issue a PLA, can work through it. There was no discussion from the administration. There's no discussion from purchasing or procurement of the process, what it's going to take to get that set up. And so and our fear is in the engineering and architectural services world is a lot of the unintended consequences. So our professionals are responsible for independent oversight, ensuring work complies with plans, specifications, and safety standards. Mandated PLAs risk those professionals inside labor frameworks and could create conflicts of interest, hinder criticism of poor workmanship, and compromise quality assurance and public safety. These concerns are not theoretical. They are well established enough that the A&E services are exempt from PLAs at the federal level. I implore you all to take a look at this. As a resident of Anne Arundel County here today, we are looking at a major deficit at the state. We need to try and look at every single thing we are doing. You have on your agenda tonight that you're moving money from your fund balance to shore up other payments that are happening from the federal government. We don't know really what the implications are of the federal workforce downsizing, what new mandates are coming in the next 90 days. We really, as a county, I implore you to keep your powder dry. We do not know what our budget situation is looking like at the state level right now, and the continued maintenance of effort is going to happen, and the investments already obligated for Blueprint for Education are out there right now. And it's coming down the line that this council and members that are on here are going to have to make very tough decisions along with the next county executive. I think the next logical step here is to get everybody in a room and have that conversation. Look at the other counties. Look at the PLA that Prince George's County tried to go down. Talk to your representatives in other counties. Use the Maryland Association of Counties as resources and your colleagues and peers. That's all I ask respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Harry Holmes Jr. I am, address is 988 Forest Drive, Arnold, Maryland. I'm here representing the Independent Electrical Contractors Association. I am also a member of the ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors Association, and I'm also representing myself as a business owner of a merit shop electrical subcontracting business. We have been in business for over 28 years. We currently employ in excess of 250 qualified electricians of all shapes and sizes. PLAs serve absolutely no purpose, in the local government. They will eliminate the merit shops and the competitive bidding process we all represent. It will drive up project costs, it will impact existing budgets, and benefit a very small majority of individuals, currently not that compete at the local level. I would like to share, my experience. We have had the opportunity as a qualified and trusted electrical subcontractor to do some iconic projects, one being the WDC Mormon Temple. Did the full restoration of that project. We did the restoration of the old Annapolis post office right up the street here, full restoration, we did additions and renovations at Eastport Elementary School, and we are currently contracted at Old Mill High School. I can share with you that at the time that these projects were bid, none of the union contractors posted or provided estimates at that time. It was all merit shop contractors. Clearly, going forward, if PLAs are incorporated, then that may change, and that will obviously increase costs and eliminate the competitive bid process that now exists.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Kenneth Wade. I'm a local 197 Carpenters Union. I'm here just to represent the everyday union worker. I live in Anne Arundel County, and those people who live in that community, work in our community, bring money and everything else into the community. There's a lot of mess going on about the PL, and I'm sure it could be worked out if we come to the table like we are now. One thing I'd like to bring up is specifically about some of the myths. PLAs reduce competition. In fact, union and non-union contractors may bid and compete equally. Myth, PLAs increase construction costs. Fact, PLAs define costs, import, and reduce labor-related overruns. Myth, PLAs restrict management rights. Fact, owners and contractors retain full management authority. I worked in different states. Google Data Center, Northrop Grumman, Dallas Airport. Why do I not have the right to work in Anne Arundel County? Why do I have to always travel when there's a job that I'm qualified to do in Annapolis? Because what, $10 million, whatever? I don't understand. I have to be, if you had two kids, when those kids were sitting here, the Cub Scouts, and they got up, imagine two of them were yours. Which one are you going to say has a right to work around home and spend his money in his neighborhood? And which one has to travel down the road? We all got to travel to work.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Who do you pick?
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Todd Taylor. I live in Pasadena, and I've been a resident of the county for over 50 years. I'm also a 40-year member of the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America, Local 197. I'm in favor of Bill 100-25. PLAs provide good-paying jobs for highly trained union craftsmen like myself in the communities where we live. I would greatly appreciate not having to travel to D.C. or Northern Virginia for the best-paying jobs. This common-sense legislation has been implemented in many other areas in our region, and that is why I support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. All right. Lynn Bennett is not here. Okay. Next, Thomas Cole, Kevin O'Keefe, Concepcion Morales, A.J. Odell, Chris Garvey, and Doug Portner. All right, sir, you can go ahead.
Okay, I know I'm going to echo a lot of what's already been said, but I feel obligated to speak. My name is Thomas Cole. I'm from Crownsville, off of Crownsville Road. I'm a business owner based in Anne Arundel County. My company, which performs underground utilities like sewer, water, storm drains, employs 41 Anne Arundel County residents, and I realize that's somewhat of a small company. But it's mine, and I really wanted to state my strong objection to this bill, Bill 100-25, establishing requirements for the use of a project labor agreement. I believe government-mandated PLAs do exclude more than 90% of the local construction industry workers who've made the decision not to join a union. Project labor agreements don't help to control the price of a project, but have been shown to actually increase the cost of the construction project, some as much as 20%. Contractors already pay the same wages on county-funded projects through the use of the existing prevailing wage rules, which require the same mandated apprenticeship standards and pay scales that union contractors use. PLAs will always thwart free and open competition and will result in a lower pool of bidders, as local companies such as mine will choose to simply not bid a project nor perform the work. This means that job sites will be filled with out-of-state contractors, contractors who will take the money, the tax money and the wages with them once the project's completed. Some PLAs require employees, even non-union employers, to make contributions to union pension funds during the terms of the PLA project. And lastly, again, PLAs increase project costs for non-residual benefit to the workers, the government, and even the taxpayer. County Council decision to impose costly project labor agreements would be damaging to those same constituents you took an oath to represent. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Chris Garvey with Associated Builders and Contractors located at 100 West Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. I'm here as the president of ABC Chesapeake Shores, and I'm here to voice opposition to Anne Arundel County Bill 100-25. Founded in 1950, Associated Builders and Contractors and its 67 chapters nationwide have spent the last 75 years defending the right to fair and open competition where the most qualified contractor can bid work, win work, and perform work regardless of labor affiliation. In particular, Associated Builders and Contractors is against government-mandated project labor agreements. In the interest of time, I'm just going to wrap up by saying I urge your opposition to Anne Arundel County Bill 100-25. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garvey. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Doug Portner. I'm in Crofton, Maryland. I own a commercial roofing company and a taxpayer in Anne Arundel County. I thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm here to respectfully urge the County Council to oppose the adoption of Bill 125, establishing requirements for use of project labor agreements for county construction projects. Project labor agreements are fundamentally un-American. Prevailing wages already provide for a level playing field for all bidders. I would ask why the government would want to put their finger on the scale to benefit companies outside Anne Arundel County. Project labor agreements restrict competition by favoring a small portion of the construction workforce, primarily unionized contractors, which employ a very small percentage of the construction workforce in Anne Arundel County, while excluding or discouraging the vast majority of qualified local merit shop contractors and their employees. Merit shop contractors represent a very large percentage of the construction force or the workforce in Anne Arundel County. A PLA effectively tells those workers and businesses that their skills, experience, tax contributions are not welcome on publicly funded projects. The lack of competition has real consequences. Numerous studies and real-world examples show that PLAs increase construction costs, often by double-digit percentages, due to reduced bidder participation and inefficient work rules. Higher costs mean fewer projects completed, fewer schools and infrastructure improvements built, and more strain on our county taxpayers without any proven improvement in quality or safety. PLAs also undermine local businesses. Many small minority-owned contractors cannot afford the administrative burden, benefit duplication, or hiring restrictions imposed by PLAs. At a time when Anne Arundel County should be focusing on encouraging local participation and economic growth, a PLA would do the opposite by pushing local firms. Thank you for letting me testify today.
Thank you, Mr. Portner. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is A.J. Odell, live at 575 Arundel Way. I'm not only a lifetime Anne Arundel County resident, but also the owner of Cedar Lane, LLC, a local construction company, employs 30 county residents and regularly utilizes Anne Arundel County-based subcontractors. Roughly 80% of our work is performed in Anne Arundel County DPW projects, all of which fall under prevailing wage requirements. We fully comply with those standards and pay the required wages rates when applicable. Existing bid process is fair, competitive, and does not favor union or merit shop contractors. It allows qualified local businesses to compete on equal footing. A mandated project labor agreement would effectively exclude companies like ours from these projects despite our proven performance, compliance, and investment in the local workforce. This would reduce competition, increase project costs, and ultimately limit the number of projects the county can afford to deliver. PLAs do not create additional wage protections on county projects that are already governed by prevailing wage laws. Instead, they add administrative complexity and cost while shrinking the bidder pool and discouraging participation from established local contractors who live, work, and pay county taxes here. Anne Arundel County benefits when local companies are able to compete fairly and keep public dollars circulating within the community. I respectfully urge you to consider the real impact of Bill 100-25 would have on local employers, local workers, and county taxpayers, and oppose the implementation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Odell. Yes, sir.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Concepcion Morales. I live at 101 Baltimore Avenue, Glen Burnie, and I am a proud member of the Carpenters Union Local 197. I am a proud council representative for the Eastern Atlantic State Regional Council Carpenters, and I can call Anne Arundel County home for the last 26 years. I'm proud to live in a county that is moving forward with a project labor agreement policy. As a council representative, I am not only able to assist skilled union members and recruit new apprentices for a career construction, but I also assist non-union workers who are victims of wage theft and worker misclassification. A PLA policy ensures high standards and local requirements that help union and non-union workers receive fair wages and complete the job on time and with budget. PLAs are a tool that establish wages, work rules, employment conditions, and dispute resolution procedures, while also reducing the risk of delays, slowdowns, and labor-related cost overruns. Be assured, I and my union will be ready to assist Anne Arundel County to ensure our skilled carpenters and contractors follow the local requirement of the PLA and build Anne Arundel County projects safely, professionally, and on time. I'm asking you to move forward with the PLAs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morales. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Chair Hummer and members of the Anne Arundel County Council. My name is Kevin O'Keefe. I'm here on behalf of the Independent Electrical Contractors Chesapeake. We represent 150 merit shop contractors, 25 of whom have offices in Anne Arundel County, and they represent about 9,000 employees. In addition, we're most proud we have 1,300 electrical apprentices, and 350 of them are in a program with Anne Arundel County. So we're very proud of the work we do in this county. And one thing that was mentioned earlier is about the issue of non-licensed workers. Whenever we look at legislation at the local level or the state level, we always ask, does it require licensed electricians? We're always asking that is a requirement. We want the electricians to be licensed. We support that strongly. And 2 points that have been mentioned many times by people before me is, one, it's pretty clear, I think, that PLAs will increase cost. And we can fight over or talk about how much increase costs, but it will increase costs in this tough fiscal time. So I think that's one reason to oppose it. And the other thing I'd like to say, if you look at page 2, lines 37 to 45, the reasons why you're doing the PLA: for timely work completion, following the rules, safety rules, and qualified workforce, and prevailing wage. They are things that we all do as merit shop contractors. So I don't think it is fair at this point in time to enact legislation to mandate PLAs, which would put merit shop contractors, many of whom, have you heard tonight, are homegrown, in an unfair position. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe. If there's anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 125, you may come up at this time. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Chair and County Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Casey Wiseman, President of Wiseman Electric Company here in Anne Arundel County and past IEC President. I am here to respectfully oppose the use of mandatory project labor agreements on county-funded construction projects. I want to be clear. This is not an argument against unions or organized labor. This is an argument for fairness, open competition, and responsible use of our tax dollars. The majority of the construction workforce in Anne Arundel County is made up of merit shop contractors and non-union workers. Mandatory PLAs place unnecessary barriers on these local businesses and skilled tradespeople by forcing them to operate under union hiring rules, benefit structures, and work practices that may not align with how our companies are structured. The result is that many qualified local contractors simply choose not to bid or cannot bid on public projects right in our own backyards, which we all are paying taxes for. When competition is reduced, costs go up. Fewer bidders means higher prices, and that ultimately impacts taxpayers. At a time when construction costs are already high and public budgets are stretched, the county should be encouraging maximum competition, not limiting it. PLAs also risk excluding local workers who choose not to belong to a union. These are hardworking residents of our county who pay taxes, raise families here, and deserve the opportunity to work on public projects without being forced into a labor agreement that doesn't reflect their career choice. Anne Arundel County has a long history of successfully delivering projects without mandatory PLAs. There is no clear evidence that imposing them will improve quality, safety, or timeliness, but there is significant evidence that they can increase costs and reduce participation overall. I respectfully urge the board.
Thank you, Mr. Wiseman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiseman. All right. The public hearing on Bill 125 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 125.
Bill number 125, an ordinance concerning purchasing, procurement, project labor agreements.
Okay. There is one amendment. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Could I read in the amendment?
Oh,
Madam
I'm
Chair?
sorry. Yes,
Sorry,
Madam
Mr. Smith.
Secretary, please read the amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment increases the cost of a county construction project subject to this section and eliminates the mandatory directive.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Yes. This amendment came up over the last very near recent timeline. We have been going kind of back and forth and looking at how we can sort of ease into PLAs within the county and to look at how we can sort of take the next step. I've always said that in 2020, even in 2021, when we removed the prohibition on PLAs, the county never did anything else outside of expanding that scope. And so the next logical step was to try to understand, well, what does that look like? How do we take 1 foot forward to ensure that these labor agreements are looked at or considered and evaluated? And so this amendment was at least a compromise with some numbers that were thrown around. The $35 million came up with the administration. I believe that they were okay with that $35 million threshold. And there was also a effort to build in some bandwidth, if you will, flexibility with leadership in the county to impart their sort of focus on PLAs. And so that's why the language was changed to try to address this. And motion to adopt.
Okay.
Rodman, second.
All right. Any discussion? Mr. Volke?
Thank you. I guess I'm not fully understanding this, so maybe the panel or the sponsor can explain it to me. The bill as written would mandate project labor agreements be used on any county construction project that exceeds $10 million in scope, right?
That's correct.
Okay. The amendment that's being proposed would first and foremost raise that threshold from 10 million to 35 million.
That's correct.
Okay. Which takes out dozens of county projects and really limits it, if I remember from the work session, to about 17.
Maybe a little bit less, but yes, that's correct.
Okay. That's number one thing it does. And the number two thing that it does is that it makes project labor agreements entirely permissive and not mandatory in any form or fashion. Am I right about that?
That's correct.
Okay. So to the extent that a person wants to see Anne Arundel County actually move forward and implement project labor agreements, the adoption of this amendment would seem to contradict that. Am I following?
That's incorrect.
Incorrect. So explain to me why that's incorrect.
For one, we're defining and putting in language in the code specific PLA provisions that we want to guide our procurement process towards. And so the fact that there's nothing there now and there's no mechanism to even get them to move there, there's no conversations about PLA happening within the procurement process to date. And so this provision moves that needle and allows a mechanism to be in place so that if the county executive or whoever the senior leader within the county deems that it's appropriate, there is now a mechanism to actually implement that for projects that are appropriate for a PLA, the PLA process. Over the last, I would say, 48 hours, we've seen some concessions being made to try to bring forward some resolution that allows the administration to have that flexibility, from what I understand, with the meetings that have taken place earlier this week. And so I disagree on the notion that the fact that it is the shall is now may removes that language or removes the ability to now take another step towards implementing PLAs. You've heard earlier there's a work group potentially being proposed, or not proposed, it was already submitted here that's coming up. And so as we sort of navigate this terrain, hearing some of the concerns of everyone that was involved, initially I thought this was a safer way to enter into that process so that we can continue this dialogue as we grow this particular instrument into our county procurement process.
Okay, but I hear you on all of that. Currently, you may enter into a project labor agreement in the county on any county project, yes?
Yes, but
okay, there's nothing
yes.
that precludes at this point.
That's true.
There was a prohibition. That prohibition's been repealed. So at this moment, it's a may. It's permissive. And if we adopt this amendment, we're going to be right back at a may.
No, but now there's code that individuals can now reference that forces the county to say, hey, you have this code, you have this language in here. What are the metrics that will allow us to now be accountable to some of these activities that are occurring? So I think it certainly is a much more progressive manner.
I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
No, you're good.
When I look at the bill, so all this bill will do at this point, subject to this amendment, is it will put a couple definitions in code about what a county construction project is, what a department is, what a nonprofit organization is, what a project labor agreement is, what a workforce housing project is. And then the requirements are effectively going to be neutered because you're going to move to 35 million and it's going to be a may.
The 35 million was not sort of my desire to go there.
Well, I got you.
That's
where you're going.
Yeah, I'm trying to be flexible with what the needs are from different organizations and flexible with the county for what they think is appropriate. So that's why that number is in there.
I got it, and I understand that's probably where you got the administration jump and bite on, and that may be where other members of the council are comfortable. I don't know. I'm not privy to that, but I'm just looking at this trying to understand what this actually does if this amendment gets passed. So you've number one, we've put 5 definitions into the code, and number 2, we've put some language about requirements, all of which are permissive requirements,
Mr. Vokey.
none of which are mandatory.
Yep. Can I respond?
Please.
So here earlier today, you actually voted against a resolution that was going to put a question on the ballot to allow a chartered office to be potentially placed in a charter office. Your rationale for why you voted against that was potentially that when you elevate that office, it will now potentially come with more budget efforts. That really wasn't the case, but that was your effort and your logic on why you thought it was appropriate that we didn't put that in place. So when it comes to this, the fact that it's now language in the code, we now have a mechanism and a framework to move forward to expand these types of opportunities in the county. As you said, now it's in writing, right? And so whereas before, with that similar to that provision with the charter office, it's not no longer a charter thing, so you don't have any concerns. Well, now this will be in language in the code to allow those conversations to move forward. And actually have a mechanism by which individuals and some of our union members to apply and to gather data to show that we're actually trying to meet some of these metrics to increase those opportunities. So,
where is that in this?
Well, listen, it's some of that additional language is coming. I think the timing of this.
So it's not in here.
Not with the data matrix to pull that out. That's going to be coming. I wasn't sure we were going to even have 4 votes today, to be honest with you. So I was just trying to make sure it didn't die on the vine because I've been spending the last week of my life speaking to specific people to make sure we can try to get this across the finish line and to at least open this door and codify in writing a direction that is aimed at improving these types of measures within county government.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I guess where I'm at is to make sure that I'm being logically consistent, lest you have any concern that I'm not. I'm a no on your amendment. I'm a no on your bill.
That's
right?
fair.
And I don't think there's any punches that I'm pulling.
There was no doubt that I assumed that you were going to be voting for
it. But what I'm trying to understand about the entire purpose of the thing is it was brought in as one thing, and now with this amendment, it seems like whatever it was brought in as is all evaporating. And I'm not clear what actually remains after this amendment. And that's what I'm trying to understand is I see there's a few definitions, so those are in the code. I see that there will be language about requirements where the requirements are now being moved to be permissive, not mandatory requirements. So they're not actually requirements. They're more like suggestions. And it tells us in here what the contents of a project labor agreement could be, and that's it. So that's what I'm trying to understand is what actually remains if this amendment gets passed.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question of the Office of Law that I think might just clear this question, clear up this confusion. So this is for the Office of Law. Under current law, the administration can, but is not required to use a project labor agreement, correct?
Cali County Supervising County Attorney, yes, correct.
If this amendment were to pass, the administration can, but would not be required to use a project labor agreement.
Correct.
Okay, so in a way, while it does provide a framework, that framework would still be optional. And so I would like to ask my colleague, would you be willing to reconsider this amendment or introduce an amendment without the word may?
So,
because to me, this basically, if we're interested in actually making sure that project labor agreements become part of our vocabulary in Anne Arundel County, this will just this completely undermines it, because it's, then it will be completely optional whether or not to do it. It has a framework, and I think that's got value. But if we're actually trying to move project labor agreements forward, this basically, a future administration who isn't interested in taking the time or whatever has a complete out.
agree. And I'm glad you reiterated that. Like I said earlier today, I wasn't even sure where some of the members on this council was. And so,
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I have been back and forth because I've had conversations with different folks, on different aspects of this. And I've been trying to put all the pieces together. I'm actually hoping that we don't have to take a final vote tonight on this bill, because I still have so many questions. Like, I have a whole list of questions, about the bill itself, about testimony we heard tonight, that I would sort of like to get to before we even address this amendment. But right now we have to address this amendment. So,
Point of order, unless you withdraw it.
did I do a motion to adopt?
you did, and I was your second.
Okay. I would still like to move forward with the voting on the amendment, and obviously, it explicitly states where it is, and go from there.
If there's no other amendment proposed tonight, correct? So if this amendment doesn't pass, this will be up for a final vote in its current form.
Madam Chair, I would just vote and see, and I'm just curious where folks are on this process. So if
I have to say, I would like to buy a little more time. I think initially, in some of my earlier conversations, I thought we were too far to getting a bill that could work. And I had thought I can't support this bill because we're too far away. After having, a whole bunch of conversations, very 11th hour, literally like not even in the AM this morning, in the PM today, I have come to the conclusion that we may be a lot closer than we think to coming to something workable. But, if we don't support this amendment, or if we don't have an amendment we can support, then this is done. This is done tonight. So, and I think some of our colleagues, we're lots of things we have 7-0 votes on where we agree, all across the council, but this is not one of them. This is one where, our party values are going to play a strong role in how this vote comes out. I'm just, everybody knows that. That's not a secret. So I guess the question is there room to go forward and continue this discussion as
the good thing, if it's amended, there's at least a couple more weeks to debate the bill and actually bring those concerns to the administration and to other groups.
But right now, I guess, you can always vote for an amendment, even though you think that amendment is flawed, just for the sake of keeping a bill alive. I'm not sure if there's 4 votes to do that. But maybe we should just vote and find out. I don't know. It's very frustrating because obviously there's a lot of thought in this room about how this should go forward, and a lot of energy has been expended at this point. And I understand I'm very mixed feelings about, the idea of a work group. To me, that, it's good. It's good to bring people together for a conversation, but it's also good to, move forward and do things. So, and, you know, I think if we had a work group, we probably would be close to a year before something, you know, this would kick the can down the road, you know, very likely, you know, another year. Do we want to do that? I'm not entirely comfortable. And going back to, you know, I have all kinds of questions about things that were stated in folks' testimony that I would like clarity on. So I don't know how to get there.
I have a question, a procedural question. Could Ms. Rodvian withdraw her second from the amendment? And that would cancel the amendment unless there's another second for it, and we could continue on with other discussion about the bill. But that is an option, Ms. Rodvian, if you would like to do that, to withdraw from and continue asking questions and seeing, and then it could be presented again.
I wouldn't mind hearing from my colleagues about what you think on that idea. I have a feeling there's a few that would be like, nah, whatever, you know, just, yeah, I know where some folks are at, and that's okay. You know, we were elected by different districts, and we represent those districts, and that's the way it works. That's how, you know, that's how elected government, that's how democracy works, right? We're in a democracy. This is a good thing, and it's still functioning at the county level.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I will say I share your concerns, and Mr. Volke, I share your concerns. I know you're amazed, but we all agree on this, that this amendment as written kind of neuters this bill and creates it that, to my mind, there's not a need for this bill if the way that this amendment is written, because it takes away the mandate and we can already do exactly what the bill says. You know, if we want to continue this discussion on, we can pass the amendment, even though we don't like it and don't see. But that is that's a call that each person will have to individually make.
Would my colleagues entertain a motion to hold the bill?
Point of order. That's out of order at this point. It's been motioned and seconded on the amendment, so the amendment is what's on the table.
Okay, so a discussion about a motion to hold is...
So, well, here's another procedural question to ask our parliamentarian. So if Ms. Rodvian were to withdraw her second for the amendment, would the amendment be off the table and we could then consider a hold? Yes?
Okay, I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to withdraw my second.
Second on the amendment.
Then I encourage all my colleagues to support this amendment, and we achieve the same thing. And if we decide we want to create an amendment, or you know, someone changes their vote on the amendment at the next meeting, then we will have accomplished the same goal of buying ourselves 2 more weeks.
All right, is there any other discussion at this time? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Crazy.
Aye.
Mr. Volke?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Radvian?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
I'm going to say aye so that we have 2 more weeks that we can discuss this moving forward. But if this amendment is not changed in the next bill, I will vote against it, because this is not. But I want to continue to allow my colleagues that have asked for it to have further time to discuss things. So
we have 4 in the
Pardon?
affirmative, 3 in the negative, so amendment number 1 has been adopted.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's an important point.
So
Madam Chair, could we continue discussion
we
before we move on to,
yes.
What else do we have on our agenda tonight?
We can continue
This is
discussion.
The last thing.
Yes, so we can continue discussion at this time. So
And I told my husband it would be a miracle if we got home before midnight, and it's only 10:30, so I feel like we have lots of time, right?
So,
So
Ms. Rodvian.
Do you mind if I ask some questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've heard a number of individuals who represent or themselves own non-union companies saying that that they wouldn't be able to participate, or they wouldn't be able to they wouldn't be able to bid on a contract if there were a PLA. And I know there's, like, help me understand. Because my understanding is that the whole point of a PLA is that it's not restricted to union labor, that it actually keeps the door, like it keeps the door open. So what am I missing? What is, I mean, I don't want to accuse anyone of saying something completely false, because I think there is substance behind that statement, even if it's, maybe in practice. Is it anyone?
I'm just going to make the point, and I don't say this with any disrespect, so don't take it this way, but this is technically out of order to how a meeting works, right? We had the agenda item, we heard public testimony, we then heard an amendment, we then voted on it. At the conclusion of that, then we should announce that the bill is done. There's no agenda item, that's on in front of us to debate. Now, if we want to add something to the agenda and amend the agenda, I suppose we could do that, but at this moment, there's nothing on the agenda. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. And just procedurally, so everyone knows, that takes precedent and it's not debatable.
Second.
Madam Secretary, call the roll to a motion to adjourn. You don't, what?
I don't call a roll on a motion to adjourn.
So-
It's all in
It's just
favor.
all in favor, okay.
Madam Chair, may I request a voice vote?
You may request a voice vote.
A roll
call vote. Madam Secretary, would you make a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Radvian?
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer?
Nay.
5 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. The motion to adjourn has passed.
Okay, the county council is adjourned to the public until Monday, February 2nd. Oh, I also need to read bill number, did I already say that about, was
think
amended
so.
to be heard? County council is adjourned to the public until Monday, February 2nd, 2026 at 7 p.m. for our next legislative session here in our chambers.